funding. Then for a little uplift, we'll also talk about the great DEVO and what Jared gleaned from his interview with the band's co-founders ahead of their show Friday at MGM. It's all ahead on Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. Members of the Roman Catholic College of Cardinals have processed into the historic Sistine Chapel at the Vatican. They sang as they walked. The Cardinals are beginning their conclave, the meeting to choose a new pope. They started this morning by celebrating Mass. It's the only public event they will hold during this process. India has carried out several airstrikes on sites in Pakistan. It's in retaliation for a militant attack 2 weeks ago on a group of tourists in Indian-controlled Kashmir province. 26 people were killed. India claimed Pakistan was involved, but Pakistan rejected the claim. Vyomoka Singh is an Indian Air Force wing commander. She says India will take further steps if needed.
India has demonstrated considerable restraint in its response. However, it must be said that the Indian Armed Forces are fully prepared to respond to Pakistani misadventures, if any, that will escalate the situation.
Pakistan claims that it has shot down several Indian warplanes, but that has not been confirmed. Both India and Pakistan have nuclear weapons and have been on unfriendly terms. U.S. colleges and universities could lose access to the federal student loan program if too many of their former students go into default. NPR's Corey Turner has details on the warning issued by the Department of Education.
In a letter, the department warns schools they should reach out to former students and remind them of their obligation to repay their federal student loans. The letter made clear the stakes for colleges could be high. Technically, schools with too many former students in default can lose access to federal student aid, which would be a death sentence for many colleges. More than 5 million borrowers are currently in default, with several million more headed in that direction. The Education Department even pledged later this month to calculate every school's rate of student loan non-repayment and publish it, a move clearly intended to push schools into helping the department recoup some of its debts. Corey Turner, NPR News.
President Trump's tariffs are affecting small businesses. In Seattle, the owner of a local ice cream shop is facing additional costs. Emil Moffitt reports.
Molly Moon Neitzel operates Molly Moon's ice cream shops in Seattle. The shops use mostly Northwest ingredients, but sugar and chocolate they import, and those costs are going up. And she says new tariffs on the compostable spoon she imports from China threaten to wipe out her profits for the year.
It feels very shaky right now, and we just didn't need this giant slam in our faces from all of these tariffs.
She says she raised prices during the pandemic to boost pay for her employees, and she doesn't want to do it again. For NPR News, I'm Emil Moffitt in Seattle.
This is NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Brown University and MIT are following in the footsteps of Harvard University and suing the federal government over cuts in funding. The Globe reports that 10 additional universities are plaintiffs in the suit against the National Science Foundation, and in the meantime, researchers at colleges like Harvard are scrambling as their federally funded research projects come under additional attacks. The Pecasset Mental Health Center may soon be getting a boost. Falmouth State Representative David Vieira has included a $50,000 allocation in the upcoming state budget to the psychiatric hospital to add 2 additional beds to the facility. That facility currently has 16 beds. In February, Governor Maura proposed shutting down the Pecasset Center, but Vieira says a community outcry helped stop that.
We need more mental health services in the region, not less. My office consistently gets calls from family members where a loved one is like being boarded in a hospital emergency room while they're looking for a mental health bed to make a transfer.
Vieira says he is now working with state Senate colleagues to to advocate for even more funding for the facility in their fiscal 2026 budget. In sports, it's the Celtics and Knicks back at it again. Game 2 of their playoff series tonight at the TD Garden. Knicks lead 1-0. Red Sox Rangers play Game 2 of their series at Fenway, and look at that. We see some sunshine outside today. Some clouds, some sun, but dry, high in the low 70s. We're at 66 right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, supporting creative people and effective institutions committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. More information is at macfound.org.
Hey, Eastern Browdy, I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming at youtube.com. Thank you, /GBH News. We're going to be joined with Governor Maura Healey on Friday, plus live music from Boston Calling artist Latrell James. And the festival's co-founder will be here with us as well for, again, Live Music Friday. The Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Andrea Campbell, will be with us, along with Josh Kraft. She's not going to be with him, but they're on the same day. He's running for mayor of Boston. Of course, that's Tuesday, May 13th. Hello, Jim.
You know, before we get started, I'm watching these Cardinals on CNN walk in, take their oath before they go on the conclave.
Yeah.
These people are so old. They literally make Joe Biden look spry. Have you been watching this thing?
Well, I think they get shut off at 80. They can't vote after 80.
No, they can go. They just can't vote. Right, they can't vote. Well, I don't know if they can go into the Sistine Chapel. No, I think you're right. For example, what's his face from Boston?
That's right.
Is there, and he could be Pope. You can be Pope over 80. You can be picked when you're over 80. You can't vote when you're over 80. We'll talk to that a little bit. Conclave
they got their red outfits on.
With Juliette Kayyem at noon. So across the country, a handful of states have enacted either bell-to-bell phone bans or at least phone bans for part of the days in schools. But while we like to think of New England as leading the charge on this kind of policy, not a single state in the region has kept phones out of schools yet. Attorney General Andrea Campbell, who will be with us on the 13th, is a leader on something called the Study Act, which would end phone use in schools. We talk about this often on the show. The reason we're talking about it yet again is because a major state has been added to the list. And last week, Kathy Hochul signed a law in New York that would not allow phones to be used, smartphones at least, in schools. We want to know if you favor such a ban. If you're a young person, do you favor it for yourself? If you're a parent of a young person, how do you feel about it? The facts are clear. We are losing the war against screen time. The negative impacts for teens are well studied. You all read the stuff from Vivek Murthy, the former Surgeon General. By the way, not just for young people, but their parents, Murthy said, are stressed out of their minds, in part because of the media, the social media, which crushes self-esteem, resilience, focus, etc. Meanwhile, did you read about this 8-year-old kid in Kentucky talking about a smartphone?
This is great.
Using his smarts for entrepreneurship. Yesterday, the day before, he used his mother's phone to buy 70,000 Dum Dum lollipops
I love that one.
for him and his friends. So the lines are open at 877-301-8970. Is this worth pursuing? If you're in Massachusetts, do you support the Study Act? If you're in a surrounding state and listening, would you like to see your state added to this? And by the way, all the experts say, forget schools, that smartphones shouldn't even be in the possession, thank you, Jim, of kids until they're at least 14. What do you think about that? 877-301-8970. We're going to get calls today. I want to warn you in advance because it drives me out of my mind, but I don't want you not to call. When a parent says, I want to be able to talk to my kid, this is the primary reason why a minority of parents oppose this. I want to be able to talk to my kid in case there's an emergency or a shooter in school. What should the kid be doing if there's a shooter in school? Talking to his mom or listening to the adult in the classroom who is trying to keep them calm and safe? Is that insane, or are you okay with that argument?
That's the reason we always get. We'll get a bunch of them today. They want to be able to talk to their kid if there's an emergency. And, thank God school shootings are still rare. I mean, obviously rare. They happen, and they happen much too often, but they're still, you don't want to operate from the perspective, I don't think, of what happens if there's a school shooting. But they actually say, Jim, your kid can be ready for a smartphone as young as 10, anywhere between 10 and 14 or during middle school. And one of the big reasons they don't want to be left out of the social circuit, since this story, these stories about cell phones say 1 in 3 8-year-olds have cell phones. So by the time you get to middle school, I think we should get rid of middle school myself. I think it should be K through 8, so you don't have to reinvent yourself in middle school and get in trouble. But in any case, that's one of the big reasons. You'll be socially out of the loop. Your kids are planning your friends are planning things on. Well, kids plan about that. All you want to do is hang out with your friends, right? And you want to be part of the group. So
if they feel out of the group at 6, give it to them at 6?
No. They're saying between 10 and 14 during middle school. They say 6th grader, typically 10 to 11, is a good age to start discussing a phone or a smartwatch. Just about a smartwatch. Oh, by the way, they don't want smartwatches in New York as well.
Well, it's a variation on the same theme. So I have a quiz for you.
Yep.
Who was the first governor to sign a law saying no more phones in schools?
I think it was Ron DeSantis.
The odious Ron DeSantis.
Who's in a little trouble now.
Really?
His wife is in a little trouble.
Do you believe that, by the way?
Some malfeasance going on down there with some charity they're running.
Medicaid money. I mean, huge amount of money that they're arguably misusing. By the way, some stats before we get to your calls. 77% of teachers say that cell phones in the classroom are the major distraction.
And you know what?
60s, let me get this out.
End of discussion. If 77% of teachers think they're a major distraction.
Are you mocking them?
No, I think that's reason enough.
Okay,
I mean,
fine.
they're in the classroom with the kids all day.
66% of parents in this Pew Center thing I read last week. I did that little event it wasn't a little event, for the Evelyn Lilly Lutz Foundation
Standing room
at
only.
Endicott. Well, you're jealous because you weren't invited, and I understand why, which I did last week on the North Shore. But my point is, 66%, I read this in anticipation of that, 66% of parents are okay for no phones during class, but only 32% are okay with kids not having phones bell to bell, meaning from the beginning of the day to the end. They want their kids to have their phones back.
They want to be able
during
to reach
lunch,
their
which
children.
is ridiculous. You know what you do when you have your phone and you're a little kid? You don't talk to another human being. You just look at your damn phone, which accentuates the problems that, again, the Surgeon General so well identified. One more thing I want to say here.
What?
This is a pogo-esque problem. Would you not agree? I've seen the enemy. It is us. We are the adults. One, because we're using them. Why are you laughing?
No, it's true.
Because we set a horrible example for kids. You can't use them, but then you don't even make eye contact with your child because you're on your phone all the time.
All you got to do is go to a park where all the little kids are playing,
Right.
and the kids are saying, "Mom."
Kids can be out in the street.
I'm upside down on the monkey bars or something like that, and Mom doesn't know because she's looking at her cell phone. And then you see which is really incredible, because I have a 3-year-old granddaughter, to see how it's like their brains are wired for this. I mean, I can hardly.
She doesn't have a cell phone.
No, she doesn't have a cell phone.
She wants a parent's cell phone.
But she will grab a cell
I see.
phone and she'll start scrolling through it like she's had it for 10 years, and she can operate all the. I mean, I can barely turn my cell phone on and off, and she's got the whole thing going. She's online. I mean, it's unbelievable how fast they can do it when they're little. 877, what?
I just want to say this. Zoe, our colleague over there, just wrote us a note. We're talking about how parents have to sort of lay down the law, which I think they do. Here's a situation where the kid had to lay down the law for the parents, the kid being Zoe in her 20s. I had to have an intervention with my own parents in my early 20s. I would come home for dinner. The empty nesters, the parents were glued to their screens, had to issue an edict, no phones at the dinner table.
Yeah.
Mom and dad.
Yeah,
I love
that's a big
that.
deal. No phones at the dinner table. Doesn't that drive you crazy if you're out with somebody and they're looking at their phone the whole time?
No, by the way, you are 10. Yeah, there's like you have a disease.
I do.
You are 10 times worse than this. You're projecting. That's what that's called.
I'm not projecting.
You are on your phone all the time.
What are you talking
all
about?
All the time. In middle of meetings we have in the morning. One more text. I could do one more text.
Half
I got
the
to
time I don't know where
respond to this
my
thing.
phone is, Jim.
That's a good thing,
why
by the way.
That's why I'm not on it all the time.
Okay, let's go. John in a car. You are first on Boston Public Radio. John, welcome to the show. Hi.
Hey, thanks, Jim. How are you doing?
Excellent. Thanks. What's with you? You're on.
Because I'm a younger millennial.
Yeah.
And I've been really aware of how addicted my phone has been since like high school, basically, and kind of going through college. And recently I made a decision to go back to a dumb phone, actually. So I'm super in support of these laws. I think it's kind of a common sense thing. Like, we all know our devices are super addictive. Their studies are pretty clear on like their effects on attention. And it's just one of those things that culturally, I think we've been really behind the ball on addressing. And I'm glad states are starting to do something about it. But I was kind of thinking about this stuff like, 10, 12 years ago, I feel like all the warning signs were clear and we should have been jumping on it a little sooner, honestly.
I agree with every word you said, every single word you said. And by the way, the one thing you didn't say, which I should have mentioned, which we emphasized at the Endicott event, which Marjorie wasn't invited to last week, is this is a bipartisan thing. It's supported as much by red state leaders as by blue state leaders. So it's an opportunity in an era where nothing can get done that benefits anybody except a select few. This is one of these rare things where actually progress could be made. John, excellent call. Thank you for making it. 877-301-8970 is the number.
You know, I was thinking about how 10 years ago we knew about this. I remember that teenage girl, Phoebe Prince, who took her own life. And
Western Massachusetts.
I think it was, I'm not sure if it was, I think it was 2017.
I don't remember the year.
So it was a while ago. Maybe even sooner, maybe even earlier than that. No, it might have been much earlier than that. But
she was cyberbullied, essentially.
She was cyberbullied, but I remember that was a big, it was much earlier than that. I just looked it up, 2010.
Yeah.
So it was a long time ago. But that was when we first began talking about a 24/7 opportunity to bully people. You know, that it used to be you got home to your house, and there might have been a landline there, but you had to kind of, you know, you were in the middle of your family, but that you could
penetrate
harass people all day and all night. And now, obviously, we've known that for, 15 years, and we're slow, as the caller just said, to the uptake.
How old were your kids when they got phones?
You know, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember how old they were when they got phones.
Yeah.
But my kids are old now. My youngest kid is 30.
I know
so
that.
this is a long time ago.
That's true, yeah.
Jan in Cape Cod. Thank you. Jane on Cape Cod. Thank you for calling.
Hi, Jane.
Hi, Marjorie and Jim. I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener.
Love that. Thank you.
And I'm a retired middle school teacher, and I think that they should ban smartphones in all elementary and middle schools.
Good.
In essence, a lot of parents, including my own children my son has a 10-year-old, they won't give him a cell phone for a long, long time. Studies have shown that it does affect the mental health of young children.
Yeah.
And it's really, it's up to the parents to not hand their kid. You're not handing your kid your phone. You're handing the world to your child, the internet world, which is dangerous, I think, for young children.
You said it well, Jane. Thank you much for the call, for your first call. We appreciate it.
You know, one of the exceptions in this New York ban is basic cell phones that have no internet access. So I don't think you can text on those either.
No.
So that's what they're just, you know, if you want to make a call to mom and dad or something like that.
But why do you I really don't understand this. Why do you need to make a call to mom or dad? And why did mom and dad need to make... You know, one of the things we talk about a lot on the show is independence for a young person. Right. It's probably one of the most important things you teach them. If they know they're tethered to you at that not so young age, 9, 10, 11, 12, how do you even learn to be independent? You're still under the supervision of another... What are you laughing about?
Well, that's why we read these stories about the 25-year-old taking mom on the job interview.
Exactly. Or the mother calling the college professor
I can't imagine that
to
happens
contest the grade.
That often. 877-301-8970 is the number.
How about one of our favorite stories of all time, when the Natick Mall was called the Natick Collection, there was a great story, one of Marjorie and my favorite. This kid was 40 years old. This is about 10 years ago, 15. Over the old station, about 15 years ago. He's 40 years old. His parents bought him a condo that was built above the mall, the Natick Collection. Why? So it was more likely he could finally meet a woman to engage with.
The parents were in the same condo complex.
They were? I didn't remember that.
Yeah, they bought the condo.
So they could be with him.
Right underneath his, so they thought there was a bar. I guess there was a bar that you could go to. There was a restaurant. They thought that was to improve his chances to get a date.
You didn't answer my question.
What?
What is any reason why? By the way, if there's a real emergency, you know what you do? Like when we were in school, you call the principal's office. Somebody from the principal's office goes and gets the kid. Or if the kid needs to talk to the parent, they go to the principal's office and say, I got to talk to my parent. They make a decision about whether or not that's true. And if it's true, they make the call. I mean, it is insane. There's really no argument that I've ever heard against this thing. And as you say, 77% of teachers, when they're saying it's the major distraction, and you're so concerned about the United States falling behind the world in terms of education, as we all should be, then the answer is this is one of the fixes.
Okay, I think we have to take a break.
We do?
Yes, we are. We're taking a break because it's pledge time.
What is pledge time?
Yes, it is pledge time. We're going to take a quick pledge break, and then we'll get right back to your phone calls. We're talking about the increasing number of states, not Massachusetts yet, which have banned...
Nobody in New England.
...cell phones. No, New York is the closest, I think.
It is.
Is it a good idea? Is it not a good idea? 877-301-8970. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Live, local, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Jim Braude, Marjorie Egan, Boston Public Radio. It's here on GBH Radio because of your support. Now's your chance to keep the conversation going. Give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Okay, we have a nice new gift today, Jim. It is the water bottle, white water bottle, black
we call
letters.
It the Stand with Facts.
Stand with the Facts water bottle, which is very good at this particular time because
Yes,
people are
it
not
is.
standing with the facts.
Very good point.
And that is what you get if you have a. It's 20 ounces, white stainless steel, insulated, and we send it to you for a contribution of just $10 a month. That makes you a sustainer member, which is what we like because people can plan ahead. And planning ahead now is very important because Donald Trump is after.
He's planning ahead too.
Is after the funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which includes National Public Radio, which includes us, and public broadcasting. I mean, it's really,
PBS,
I hope that Congress stands up for us, but we'll see what happens. So anyway, that's the deal right now. And if you sign up as a sustaining member, as we said, we'll give you this gift. And we want to mention as well that we can upgrade your monthly gift because a generous group of our Beacon Circle patrons will kick in an extra $5 per month to GBH. So it's kind of a
No, we're not upgrading anything.
We are.
If you want to become a sustaining member and you're not, or if you are a sustaining member, like two of us are, and you want to upgrade your sustaining membership, you do either of those things.
Okay, you're right.
And then take it from there. Go ahead.
Sorry, they will kick in, the Beacon Circle patrons will kick in an extra $5 a month.
That's
to
a lot
GBH.
of money.
It is a lot of money. So it's a great time to become a sustaining member and increase that monthly amount. The number again is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Standing with the facts is a relatively good thing, don't you think?
Well, I do think it's a good thing, but it's amazing, like I say all the time when I read the text messages, how many people are believing things that are made up. And I can't, it's hard because the president makes up so many stories. It's hard to tell what's truth from fiction. Mostly I think you can assume if he says it, it's probably
not true. Exactly. You can assume he's not standing with the facts.
Yeah, it's not standing with the facts.
Okay, so what's the number again? It's 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Oh, we're talking at the exact same time. Yeah. In any case, you get this thing, and by the way, even if there was not a threat to federal funding, which obviously there is, we make these pledge things because we hope you respect and value the work our colleagues do at the station. We do. We listen to virtually every show on the station. They are really important. They are really fact-based. And as Marjorie said a couple of times, if there was ever a time that matters, it is now. So we'd urge you to give whatever you can. And again, remember, if you become a sustaining member or upgrade the amount of money that you give in your monthly sustaining membership, $5 a month will be kicked in. That's $60 a year, which is a lot of money from a generous group of Beacon Circle patrons. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library stream at youtube.com/GBH News. We're talking about smartphones and kids. The notion that New York State just added itself to a list. I think it's 9 now, but it's still a minority, but a growing number of states that don't allow cell phone use in schools, either bell to bell, meaning beginning to end, or at least not during classes. Not one New England state is on that list. We want to know if we should join them. And we also want to know if you think, as a parent, you should keep cell phones, smartphones out of the hands of your kids until, as Marjorie said, most of the experts said, not what I said, 14, but at least 10 to 14
John Haidt
is the right time.
Doesn't John Haidt, the anxious generation guy, says age 14?
Yeah.
And
did you see the interview Ezra Klein did with him, by the way? It was really spectacular.
Ezra Klein is a great interviewer.
He's a really good interviewer.
But you went and did that event that was all about the anxious generation.
The one you weren't invited to, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember that.
So did you come away with 10 or did you come away with 14?
We didn't do that. We mostly talking about we had superintendents there. Okay. We had principals of schools. We had a wonderful student from I think Manchester High School. And there was universal support because there is no reason not to do this. And again, since it's bipartisan, this is something that should just happen right away, even in all Democratic legislatures like ours. Tom in Rhode Island, welcome to the show, Tom. You don't have this either. Hi.
Good morning. How are you both?
Good.
Hi,
Thanks.
I would say that this is all based on misinformation and false science, which is key because, it's one of the few times that it's wrong because both Democrats and Republicans agree on it.
Yeah.
In reality, Mr. Haidt is not a psychologist.
Yeah.
His work is purely one of a
study and explaining
it.
Because, by the way, I actually looked at a lot of studies before I did this event last week, and I could not find one school leader, who said that that there is. Excuse me, let me finish. That there was value in having a kid having a cell phone in class during instruction time. So take it away, Tom.
No, definitely. Candace Odgers of the University of California, Irvine, is a very big critic of this work.
Yeah, what's her argument?
Pointed out many flaws in the methodology of Jonathan Haidt.
Forget Jonathan Haidt. Forget Jonathan Haidt. Well, how about
you cannot forget him. He's the primary. You quoted him as the source.
We did.
He's
yeah,
the
it's
primary
one.
driver
Excuse me.
behind
That's one source. 77% of teachers in America say this is the major distraction. Where does she say they don't know what they're talking about?
Psychologists.
What?
Are they clinical psychologists?
No, they're teachers. I just said they're teachers.
Right.
What's her argument? What's her argument?
What we're doing is...
what's her argument? Other than
to a simple focus point.
Tom, can I tell you something? You now cited this Candace person, and you haven't said one thing she said, even though she disagrees with Jonathan Haidt. So what is it?
What's your argument?
I'm telling you.
Go ahead.
No, it's not my argument. It's Candace Odgers. Her argument is that we're focusing in too much on this idea that cell phones and social media are creating the distractions of children, when in reality it's actually a complex melange of various social economic factors.
Probably
things
is.
Like food insecurity. Things like job insecurity in their parents.
By the way,
condition.
I agree with Candace, whatever her name is in that regard. The answer is let's deal with cell phones, let's deal with food insecurity, and let's deal with whatever makes kids not able to learn. Tom, thanks for the call. 877-301-8970 is our number.
Let's go to Thomas in Lawrence.
Hello, Thomas.
Hi, Thomas.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
Long time, first time.
Thank you.
So, I'm about to turn 30, and smartphones didn't come out till 2000, at least for an iPhone didn't come out till 2007. So by the time I was in high school, they had already been out for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I didn't get one till I was 15. And when I was in school, cell phones were not allowed to be out in class anyway. If you had your cell phone out during study period, it was taken away and it was held to the end of the day. So I honestly don't know what's going on today. I don't know what changed in like the past 10, 15 years that all of a sudden this is being allowed in school.
Well, I think that they can hide them pretty well, Thomas. You know.
No, they didn't have to. They don't have to hide them in most of these schools.
Well,
most of the schools don't have bans or.
Yeah, but I think if in a normal classroom, the teacher's saying, please do not, have your cell phones out during class.
Yeah.
But I think they can find ways, to hide them, to be texting, to be online, to be surfing the web, to do wherever they're doing. So I think that's what's changed. I think the proliferation of them has changed. I mean, 1 in 3 8-year-olds have them, Thomas. That's a lot.
Thomas, thanks for the call. The other thing which we should have mentioned earlier, which is why so many people favor, other than the research out of California, these bans, which they don't like calling bans, but not having phones in schools, it's analogous to the situation we've discussed a million times about an individual family taking the keys away from the 90-year-old grandfather who doesn't drive safely. It's almost impossible for the individual family. And not every family will uniformly be able to deal with it. You don't want the teacher in each classroom to have to deal with it. That's the beauty of a statewide ban. If it turns out this Study Act thing, which has a lot of other portions, we'll talk to Andrea Campbell about it, becomes law, then it's a mandate which teachers and superintendents and principals can rely upon rather than having to do their own initiative.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about the same thing, that they think the big push from parents, the fear of parents is the same thing, a school shooting or lockdown. Someone texted before that said one of their family members went through a 6-hour lockdown, and it was very reassuring during that 6-hour lockdown, even though it turns out there wasn't a shooter. It was very reassuring to the child and the parent to go back and forth. And I get that. But, you have to weigh the I
don't get it.
Well, I think you have to weigh the harm with the good. I mean, thank goodness it is still unlikely there's going to be a school shooter, very unlikely, in your school. So preparing for a situation is very unlikely when you know that the damage is being done right now. It's not a good enough argument. The the harm outweighs the good, is what I'm basically saying.
I'll take it one step further. Then we got a break. Is even if there is a school shooter, as I said before, wouldn't you want your kid to be paying attention, to be adult in the room, and not talking to their parent?
I'd also be afraid that everybody's hiding, and somebody's phone the shooter could hear a phone call or a text or something like that. They could hear somebody whispering into their phone. It's I get it, but I don't think it's, like I said, the harm does not justify.
Totally agree.
The good does not justify the harm. I guess that's the way.
So again, on the 13th, when the Attorney General is here, and she with a couple of legislators is sponsoring this thing, we'll talk to her about it. That's it.
Are we out of time already?
We are. It's Pledge Week.
Boy, it goes so quickly, doesn't it?
It does go quickly.
Okay. Well, and after we get through with our next pledge break, we're going to be talking with GBH's Executive Arts Editor, Jared Bowen, from the Culture Show on the National Endowment for the Arts, withdrawing funding for the arts. What is the local impact of that, and some other new shows and stuff around town. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org. or by calling 888-897-9424.
Yeah, it's pledge time, as we said a couple of minutes ago. You got the number, and there's an extra good reason. Well, there's a lot of good reasons to do it. One, because there is a threat to the funding, as you know, federal funding. And by the way, we should say, when you're a large organization like GBH, while it's not insignificant, obviously it's a smaller percentage of our funding than for a lot of smaller outlets, but it is a threat. But the other good reason, as Marjorie mentioned at the top of the thing here, is if you become a sustaining member, which means you agree to a certain amount you're going to give every single month, or you upgrade your current sustaining membership to a higher amount, there will be a $5 a month contribution made by a generous group of what we call Beacon Circle patrons here, which means an extra $60 a year is added to whatever you agree to contribute. So that's a big deal. And if you do $10 a month, you get this Stand With the Facts water bottle deal, which is actually quite nice, which Marjorie has in front of her. And you're a big water bottle person, I should say. So that's very appealing. That one is not being auctioned off here.
It is not being auctioned off.
The Stand With the Facts one is
my blue bottle.
It is very nice. 888-897. You're welcome. 888-897-9424. GBHnews.org.
Okay, we have a lot of people worried about what's going to happen with Trump's wanting to get rid of funding for Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Susan in West Roxbury says we need a trusted, unbiased news source now more than ever, and GBH is providing that valuable information. She also says something nice about you and me. Bill from Plymouth said, it's a critical time for public radio, and I want to support it. Elizabeth from South Dartmouth says, objective news and information has never been more important. You know, I don't know if it was John King or somebody was doing this reporting about how many people get no news from any reputable news source. Everything is coming from their social media feed, and it's just wrong. And you've got vast swaths of the country that's getting all this wrong information. So it is a good time for more fact-based, as we say, Stand With the Facts kind of
Thank you
radio.
for showing me that. Yep.
So sign up as a new sustaining member or upgrade your monthly gift, and a generous group of our Beacon Circle patrons will kick in an extra $5 per month to GBH. That's a big deal. The number 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Hey, how come you didn't read that we're in National Treasure? Did you know we're in National Treasure?
We're National Treasure.
Jonathan from Lowell says, Jim and Marjorie,
I know, that was very nice.
on Boston Public Radio are a national treasure.
I know, he said that. Thank you very much,
Let me say it again,
Jonathan
a national treasure.
Yeah, okay.
Please keep up the good work.
And Susan from West Roxbury said we're a
Jonathan
gift to her day.
We are?
I didn't read that either. But
We
I
are?
get, well, it's a little embarrassing.
Why are you so hesitant during pledge
it's
to
embarrassing.
read?
It's embarrassing.
It's not
888-897-9424.
We're National Treasure.
We're National Treasure. gbhnews.org.
Jared knows we're National Treasure. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan, National Treasures, live from the BPL and stream at youtube.com/GBH News. We are now joined at the public, whatever this is, the Boston Public Library. Sorry, I'm a little discombobulated. By GBH Executive Arts Editor Jared Bowen. He's host of The Culture Show. It airs daily at 2 o'clock. And some people think But he's a treasure of sorts, too. Nice to see you, Jared. How are you?
Am I working my way up to national
Maybe
treasure?
you are.
That's right.
You're doing very well. Just keep at it, and good things will happen.
Right now, I'm just a county treasurer. If that.
Right. You're
You are
Suffolk County
huge in
treasurer.
Suffolk.
That's right. You can
Parts
take
of
advantage-
Middlesex, too, by the
Yeah.
way.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
eastern parts of
Yeah.
Middlesex.
Norfolk
Yeah,
County. Don't forget Norfolk County. Brookline.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Worcester County. We'll name all the counties now. Hampden County, Bristol
County.
This is fun. I like this game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, Jared.
Jared.
The grant terminations from the National Endowment for the Arts are already arriving, and we have a story here that mentions, I can't find it, but it mentions 2 local groups that are already in big trouble because of their grants being denied.
Yeah, so basically on Friday night, the president essentially acknowledged his intention to abolish the NEA, National Endowment for the Arts, by taking it out of next year's budget. Within hours, these groups started all over the country, including a number here in Massachusetts, began getting emails saying that their grants have been terminated or the government is rescinding grants for 2024. And this is incredibly serious because I am not sure that there's a way to fight this. Of course, there will be lawsuits, and of course, the arts organizations will push back. However, already about half of the employees at the National Endowment for the Arts, including people who lead this research, including the people who are administering the grants, including the people who have all the institutional knowledge to execute this every year and make sure it happens, are leaving because they don't see a capacity to fight, or they took the buyouts or were pushed toward retirement. So now we have a number of organizations here in Massachusetts that have lost their grants, like Castle of Our Skins, Zoomix, Urbanity Dance. I'll tell you one of the ones that I haven't stopped thinking about because they're one of the most impactful stories I feel like I've ever covered, and that's Project STEP.
Yeah, explain what it is.
Yeah, it's fabulous. It's this group that basically identifies young kids and who have a musical aptitude, and they bring them throughout their entire academic career from being little kids, 5 or 6 years old, all the way into high school, so that they can have the classical music training. And because they're based in urban areas like Boston, their kids, especially from low-income communities who don't necessarily have exposure to classical music when they're kids, and this is how they're able to support them all throughout their careers. And it has made such a difference in the lives of the kids who've gone through this program, which I don't even know how many years. I know I did this story probably at least 12 or 15 years ago. And not only does it make a difference in the lives of the kids, but also their families, because then their siblings become interested in classical music. The parents become interested in classical music, and it just changes the dynamic of the family. Why you're going to yank funds away from a group like this, which is, their intentions are so earnest, and the measure of impact is so extraordinary, why you would take that money away.
Well, there is something that was totally confusing to me, and I think to Marjorie, that I maybe you understand, and if you don't, we'd urge someone in the listening audience to text us and tell us. It says in these defundings, for lack of a better expression, the email you get says it's to focus funding on projects that reflect the nation's rich artistic heritage and creativity as prioritized by the president, meaning Trump. But then it goes on to say, and we read this in a different article yesterday, so this is not a mistake. It then says the NEA will, meaning under Trump's priorities, prioritize, and let me read you a little bit from it, elevate the nation's HBCUs and Hispanic-serving institutions. Let me go down a little further.
Black and Hispanic, HBCUs.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, right.
Yeah, black.
And support the economic development of Asian American communities, support tribal communities. Now, this makes absolutely no sense.
Sounds like DEI.
It's totally antithetical to the bias that Trump is showing in everything that he's doing. So do you have any understanding of what this is about?
No, I think this is intentional confusion because you talk about tribal. That was one of the examples we're going to continue to support. Yet Mass MoCA lost a grant for, if anything is more solid, it's to support the artwork of Jeffrey Gibson, an indigenous artist who represented the United States at the Venice Biennale the last cycle, who was the first indigenous person to have an art exhibition at this very prestigious contemporary art fair. This was supposed to happen at Mass MoCA. And then I was thinking about this one in particular because we know what Mass MoCA has done for North Adams and Western Massachusetts.
Revitalization.
Exactly. So it has become this core of tourism, of arts patronage. Wilco has concerts out there. So as Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll said on the Culture Show last week, this is more than just thinking, yes, the arts are necessary, they nurture our souls, but they are an economic engine. There is demonstrable evidence about that to the tune of, I think it's $27 billion here in Massachusetts. And when you think of all the revenue, all the investment in the arts, all the jobs that are ancillary to this. So why are we cutting this, as the Massachusetts delegation has described, as essentially a rounding error in the federal government's budget?
We're going to try to find out in the next day or two exactly why these things, these criteria that I just listed, which, as you say, which makes it so confusing, why they're included, which is obviously by mistake. I mean, it's obviously not what Trump's vision is, to quote them. I also want to say one other thing. You mentioned the article in the Globe. They mentioned 2 or 3 organizations already lost funding. People shouldn't think that that means there are 2 or 3 organizations.
There's tons.
There's scores and scores of organizations. The Globe just focused on a few. My kid worked at Zoomix one summer. It's another spectacular music-focused place in East Boston. I mean, it just does almost very similar to what Project Step is doing.
You know what else, too? This is
about.
another one of those situations where we are one of the only wealthy countries in the world where arts are not funded in general by the government. You know, you go to France, you go to Italy, you go to Great Britain. They all do this. We don't do this. It's a guarantee kind of thing. So you have the National Endowment for the Arts come in, and they've picked up some of the slack, but we don't spend nearly what other countries do.
No, we don't. And we're talking about education here, too. Just as I was leaving the house to come here, I got an email from the Elliott School in Boston, which is teaching artisans and craft. And this hasn't even been reported yet, but they just lost their grant for the artist in residence at this program. So this is about education, this is about groups, this is about museums, this is about research. And yes, we don't support it here. And as everybody has pointed out, these organizations, a school isn't out to make money. Artists aren't out to get rich. Sometimes, yes, it happens if you rise up on YouTube or TikTok or something.
That's 1 in a million.
But for the most part, people are just doing this because they think it's important to society, and then take that funding away, and they're really hamstrung.
And you know what else? Almost every time we've had a fantastic performer in here, whether it's jazz or classical, or Andres Nelson's, who runs the BSO, the musical director there, what do they say? Andres Nelson says his parents took him to see a symphony when he was 5 years old. The BSO runs those groups for little kids that they can come in from time to time, like $20 a ticket to see the BSO perform. The people that start early, and you know, you're not going to. If you try to start your career as a musician at 17, it's hard.
But but it's not just it's an enrichment thing too.
Yeah.
It's not just a job training program for a little kid to become a professional museum or artist. And that's what worries me. I tried to articulate this. I know we got to do it quickly with Lee Pelton yesterday from the Boston Foundation, but I didn't explain it well. Let me try to do better right now. When school budgets are cut, one of the first things that go are the arts and music and all this sort of stuff. My fear is, since Trump's attack on lots of things that make our country great is so comprehensive, that what's going to get lost in the shuffle is arts, humanities, library stuff, which is also part of this executive order. That's a legitimate fear, don't you think?
It's huge, and I'll be very quick because I know you have to go to the pledge break, but we now know the evidence exists of how the arts can unlock other brains. You know, not everybody thinks the same. Not everybody has a brain that operates the same way. But we know that arts and music opens up a different side of your mathematical brain. And this is why the arts have been so integrated into schools, because it improves educational learning, because everybody's different. What happens when you take that away? We're depriving kids of education and opportunity.
Okay, we're going to take a quick pledge break, but then we're back with Jared Bowen after this quick break. And you're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support, so please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
Okay, as I always say, if we did not do these occasional pledge breaks, then we would be doing commercials and every day for like 3 times an hour, and sometimes they last like 5 minutes or 6 minutes. I know that because we used to work in commercial radio, and you could really go out to lunch during the length of the commercials before you came back to have to go back on the air again. We don't do that here because most of our money, thank God, considering the current situation, 70% of our budget comes from listener support, and most of it comes through gifts, the generosity of people like you that are listening right now for $10 or $15 a month. But the whole operation here is under threat because President Trump and some members of Congress do not want to fund the television shows and the radio shows that are brought to people for free through the public broadcasting operations, radio and television. So anyway, we're asking people to contribute what they can. If you contribute right now and sign up as a sustaining member or upgrade your monthly gift, a generous group of our Beacon Circle patrons will kick in an extra $5 per month to GBH. And as our present today, for contributing $10 a month, we have this lovely GBH 89.7 water bottle. It is a stainless steel insulated bottle, snap closure, carrying handle. It features the statement, "Stand with the Facts," along with NPR and 89.7 GBH logos. 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
Let me read another incredible. Karen from Milton. Too many reasons to count. Egan and Browdy has been a daily part of my life. That probably means they listen to us in commercial radio. That's what we were called. Daily part of my life for as long as they have been on the air. I feel like they're good friends. And we feel like the listeners are good friends too. Think about what you get here. Tomorrow, Friday, the governor is going to be with us for an hour. Attorney General on the 13th, Josh Kraft, who is running against
Mayor.
Wu.
Yep.
Mayor Wu later this month. County treasurers like Jared Bowen, at least in Suffolk County and eastern part of Middlesex. I mean, think about our regular guests, our irregular guests. Last week during the media summit, Maria Ressa, Nobel Peace Prize winner, Jelani Cobb, Columbia School of Journalism. I mean, it just, I love doing this because of the people we get to meet and talk to, and I hope you feel the same way. And to keep that alive, the best way to do it is make a contribution now of whatever amount you can. If you're a sustainer, upgrade. If you're not a sustainer, try to be one in whatever amount you can. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News, talking to Jared Bowen. We should go right to the local performances.
Yeah, tell us what's going on in the Speakeasy.
This is a really, really, really terrific show. There's not often that you find you sit down to a show and right from the get-go, there's chemistry, there's energy, there's hilarity, and you feel invested in the scenario. And that is exactly the case with JaJa's African Hair Braiding, a drama it's really a comedy that's on Speakeasy Stage Company. It just opened. It's on through May 31st. This was written, this is set in Harlem in 2019 in a really, really hot day in the summer. It's about 100 degrees outside, and the women in this hair braiding salon are gathering, the workers and the clients, and a lot of it is just about conversation about life. They're talking about diets, and they're talking about love and television and blood pressure. There are sort of intergenerational dynamics because there's one young woman who's presiding at the front desk basically as people enter because her mother, JaJa, is about to be married to a white man. She's about to get legal status in this country. So it's kind of a through line through this, but it's really just a lovely look at a group of women and what their daily life is like. But of course, even though this was set in 2019, it premiered on Broadway 23, 24 that season to Tony Award nominations. So we have the underpinnings of what's happening in society, especially in this moment. It's very present, even though we're, again, looking at 2019, that the lives of these women become so much part of us. And I think because you have this hair salon laid out before you and you're in the audience, you almost feel like you're sitting in the seats waiting to have your next turn at the chair. So you're eavesdropping on these conversations. This is written by Jocelyn Bio. She had also done a recent production at the Speakeasy Stage Company too as writer, and there's a great evolution to her writing and what she's presenting. And I think Summer L. Williams, who's directing this, has done a masterful job. I mean, when I say that immediately you launch into it, normally I think with anything you find it takes a few minutes to get your rhythm, understand who the people are, what the plot is. That is not the case here. It's fantastic.
Well, you know what I thought? Women tend to spend, especially when they get their hair colored or highlighted, they spend a lot of time at the hair salon, so they could be there for like 2 hours, and you become very close. I mean, people tell each other the intimate facts of their lives in the chair at the hair salon. I don't know if men do that, but women certainly do.
Braiding, you can be there for 6 hours.
Exactly.
Or 7 hours.
You can be there forever. So that's another thing about getting your hair braided that makes this different, I think.
Men do it too. It definitely. I remember getting my hair cut as a kid, and just all the neighborhood guys around, and just everybody just talking. Because it just becomes a very comfortable space. And you think about it, a hair salon is a vulnerable space too, because it's not somewhere where you're getting all dressed up. You're going to maybe look not yourself.
That's right.
If your hair is not the way it is coming in, as it's going to be going out.
Aluminum foil all over your head.
Exactly. And I'll mention that
a lot of our listeners have aluminum foil over their head when you listen to what they have to say, by the way.
Yeah, I had some of those emails recently myself.
Yeah.
Only kidding. You're great.
But some of the actors have been trained to braid hair because I mean, this becomes pretty fascinating to watch this over the course of about, I think it's a 95-minute show, and you're watching the actual braiding happen and then eagerly anticipating what the women are going to look like after it's done. It's great theater.
Calderwood till May 31st. Since time's running, this is a song that I think, I don't care how old you are, everybody has heard this song. Here's after 50 years, what it is,
50.
They're performing at the MGM Music Hall Friday night. Do you talk to some of these guys?
We talked to Mark Mothersbaugh and Gerald Casale recently.
Oh, they're the founders.
The founders, yeah. And they have a really interesting story, especially because they've been around for 53 years. I didn't necessarily know their founding story, but did you know they grew up in Ohio, and they were on the campus of Kent State University when the shootings happened.
Oh, I did not know that.
So DEVO is actually devolution. They were looking at that incident and looking at the devolution of society, thus DEVO was born. And so, I mean, this is something, again, I think is relevant and resonant as they're having their 50 plus anniversary tour right now, because it was a couple of years ago they hit 50, but they're still talking about this. And their story is also interesting because here they came out as this arts group that antagonized the audience because they were so strange with their performance art and their costumes and wearing the energy domes on their heads. But then they got fans like David Bowie and Brian Eno and later Trent Reznor, who had said it's all about rule breaking, and they did it in a way people hadn't in modern alt-rock music, and this is how they gained traction and became so famous.
Friday night, MGM Music Hall, DEVO, 50 plus years, which is really insane. Jared, it's good to see you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Sorry I was quick today. We've been speaking with GBH Executive Arts Editor Jared Bowen, host of The Culture Show, which airs daily at 2 o'clock and broadcasts live on Fridays right from the Boston Public Library. Coming up after the noon news, Juliette Kayyem on American ports feeling a tariff impact and what is going on at the Newark airport. She's next on Boston Public Radio.
It's Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener support is the most important and largest source of funding for GBH. Please take a few minutes and give right now. And when you do, you're going to be helping, and you're going to be one of the many people that help keep Boston Public Radio on the air. GBHnews.org or 888-897-9424. I'm Zach Finn, and I'm here with Melissa Jones.
The goal right now is to receive 12 contributions in the next 7 minutes. We're looking for the financial support of everyone who relies on GBH to make this membership drive a success. Please give at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Make your sustaining membership more valuable by giving right now. That's because members of our Beacon Circle will give GBH an extra $5 a month when you sign up as a sustaining member today. It's like kicking up your contribution by $5 per month for the first year of your sustaining membership. Give $10 per month and it becomes $15 per month for GBH. You can also upgrade your current sustaining membership to get this fantastic sustainer add-on. 888-897-9424 or go online, gbhnews.org.
Critical public funding for NPR our news stations, such as GBH, is under attack. While we don't know what's going to happen next, we do know the only way GBH survives is with greater support from our listeners. That's why your contribution has never been more important. When we stand together, we'll keep programs like Morning Edition, Boston Public Radio, and All Things Considered on the air. Please start your monthly sustaining membership or increase your current gift by a few dollars more. And when you do, you become part of the collective voice that says GBH is an essential public service in our region. GBHnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And perhaps you listen to GBH for the continuity we bring to your life. Now, no matter what the day brings, GBH is here keeping you informed and entertained. Now, I'm asking you to become a monthly sustaining member right now because GBH is here for you with the NPR and GBH News that you trust every single time you press that button. It is so easy to enroll. You simply pick a monthly amount that works for you. You can have it automatically deducted from your bank account or choose a credit card, and that's all there is to it. GBHnews.org or give us a call, 888-897-9424.
How about considering a sustaining membership at $10 a month, and we can thank you with our Stand with the Facts water bottle. This is a really popular thank you gift of ours. It's a white stainless steel bottle. It's insulated. It features the statement Stand with the Facts along with the NPR and 89.7 GBH logos. You know, I don't have to tell you how important it is for all of us to stand with the facts right now and show off your support in NPR, that you're making it happen with your gift right now. Hydrate with the facts. Take it to the office with you. Your coworkers are going to want one too. GBHnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And now just 8 gifts to go in these next 4 minutes, and we really do rely on the financial support of everyone to keep GBH going in this important service on the air and available to all. GBH has been your source of credible news, and your contribution right now is going to help keep it that way. And listener contributions empower us to investigate, verify, and report the truth. So please give right now. Help us meet that goal. We are looking for 8 more contributions in these next 4 minutes. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
You listen to Boston Public Radio because it helps keep you informed on what's happening in our neighborhoods, in Boston, and across our state. Jim and Marjorie ask the questions you want answered by the people who make the changes that affect your day-to-day life. That's why we're asking for your gift right now. You can do that at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And a big thank you, a bunch of support being shown today. We have Joan in Riverside, Rhode Island, who says, tell Jim and Marjorie I listen every day and appreciate what they do. I will pass that along gladly, Joan. And thank you so much for stepping up and showing that support today. Be like Joan. Get that call started, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Sustaining memberships are important to GBH because they ensure a consistent revenue stream that helps to keep this vital service on the air. And that's never been more important than it is today, right? And now is a great time to start your sustaining membership because a generous group of Beacon Circle patrons will give us an extra $5 a month when you do. Your $5 per month gift is worth $10 per month to GBH. Giving $10 per month is like giving $15. What a great way to start giving monthly by making it worth even more when you give right now. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And when you show your support for GBH today, we're going to thank you with our Stand with the Facts water bottle. This is a white stainless steel bottle, insulated, features the statement Stand with the Facts along with the NPR and 89.7 GBH logo. So hey, you listen to NPR, you listen to GBH, you stand with the facts. Sign up as a sustaining member, $10 a month. You can also give $120 all at once if you prefer. gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
We have just under a minute to go. We're looking for 5 more people to join in right now to make sure that we keep being able to be here to serve you with all the great stuff that you look for when you turn on NPR and GBH 89.7 News right now. 5 more contributions in just the next few seconds. You can make that happen at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And you listen to GBH throughout the year, so why not spread your membership out the same way by signing up as a sustaining member? You make a recurring monthly contribution from your bank account or your credit card, so your contribution keeps giving all year, and it only takes 2 minutes to set up. So help us out, get that call started, help us out with this goal. We are coming up, 888-897-9424, or go online, look for that donate button, gbhnews.org.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Bridgewater State University, helping create jobs for Massachusetts and working to connect industry leaders to graduates, elevating business in Boston and beyond. bridgew.edu/elevate. And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, ranked #1 in member satisfaction among commercial health plans in Massachusetts by J.D. Power for the second consecutive year. Details at mgbhp.org/everyday.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on Hour 2 of Boston Public Radio, live from the Boston Public Library. First up, national security expert, Harvard's Juliette Kayyem. She'll discuss the beginning of the secretive conclave process to pick the next pope, plus the Supreme Court upholding Trump's ban on trans people in the military, at least for now.
I'm Marjorie Egan, not content to be remembered solely as a beloved host for NPR's All Things Considered. Journalist Ari Shapiro has embraced the world of cabaret, heading out on a second national tour with stops this weekend in Nashua and Lexington. We'll ask him what it takes to pivot from humble radio host to cabaret star. I know one radio host who's very interested. All next, Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The conclave is formally underway. Inside Vatican City, the doors have shut, leaving 133 cardinals inside the Sistine Chapel to decide who succeeds Pope Francis. He died Easter Monday at the age of 88. Earlier today, the cardinals each took a solemn oath of secrecy.
Philippus cardinalis barbarans pondeo voveo acuro sic me deus adjuvet et ex sancta Dei evangelia.
The next time the public sees them will be when a new pontiff is chosen, which will be signaled by white smoke. NPR's Jason DeRose reports on the direction of the church cardinals are weighing.
As we look at this conclave, more progressive Catholics might be delighted by someone like Pope Francis because of his focus on issues like poverty, migration, and the environment. At the same time, more conservative Catholics are looking for someone more traditional, focused on that church doctrine.
NPR's Jason DeRose. Pakistan says it will retaliate after India's military strike killed at least 26 people. Omkar Kandeka reports Indian authorities say its missiles targeted multiple locations in Pakistan to avenge attacks on its civilians last month.
Pakistan has denied the Indian Army's claims that its missiles hit, quote, terror infrastructure in Pakistan. In a statement, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said India's military had hit mosques and killed civilians, and it was an act of war. He also said that Pakistani military had brought down 5 Indian aircrafts and drones, and there would be more strikes. Tensions between the two nuclear-armed countries escalated after India accused Pakistani militant groups of carrying out an attack that killed 26 civilians in the Himalayan valley of Kashmir last month. Pakistan denies this. Omkar Khandekar, NPR News, Mumbai.
Starting today, you will be asked for a real ID to board an airplane or enter some federal buildings in the U.S. NPR's Martin Kasi reports the law has taken 20 years to implement.
The 2005 law raised standards for state IDs that are used for federally regulated activities such as flying. States had to do more to check a person's identity and print cards that are harder to counterfeit. Brian Zimmer wrote the law and then consulted on Real ID implementation. He says it also took time to outfit airports with the right technology.
These new scanners that you can find at the airport are now going to be able to recognize fakes. It's highly unlikely that more than 1 in 10,000 will pass through those scanners.
Acceptable state IDs are marked with a star or a flag, and TSA will also accept federal picture IDs such as passports. Martin Costi, NPR News.
At last check on Wall Street, the Dow was up 259 points, or roughly 0.5%. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. A federal appeals court ordered that Tufts University student Rumeysa Öztürk be transferred to Vermont from Louisiana, where she's been held since taken into custody by ICE agents in March. The three-judge panel of the Second Circuit Court of Appeals rejected the Trump administration's claim that federal courts had no role in habeas petitions arising out of immigration deportation proceedings, and Öztürk must be brought back to Vermont. The story is just breaking, so we will follow it throughout the day. Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art in North Adams, or MassMoCA, has lost considerable funding because of cuts ordered by President Trump for the National Endowment for the Arts. Springfield Republican reports that the NEA is updating its grant-making policy priorities to focus funding on projects that fall in line with the priorities of President Trump. A letter from the NEA that was shared by MassMoCA says it's now terminating awards that fall outside of Trump's priorities. In sports, the Boston Celtics, New York Knicks back at it for Game 2 of their playoff series tonight at the TD Garden. The Knicks lead 1-0. Red Sox and Rangers play Game 2 of their series at Fenway tonight. A win would be nice, and the Revolution are at Rhode Island this evening. In the forecast, mostly cloudy but dry today. We like that high in the low 70s, clouds and 50s overnight, partly cloudy 70 tomorrow, 69 in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Made in Cookware. Made in Cookware is crafted by chefs for use in restaurants and home kitchens around the world. Their cookware can be found at madeincookware.com. This is NPR.
Hey, it's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Thank you. 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. I want to mention, I think this is good news. We'll see if they do it. An appeals court has ordered the Trump administration to transfer the Tufts student Rumeysa Öztürk. You saw her getting snatched off the street in Somerville, to Vermont. She's been in a detention facility down in Louisiana where we've reported very bad treatments, particularly for her asthma attacks. Carol Rose told us yesterday, Carol Rose from the ACLU, of course, that the judge was getting very annoyed with the government attorney's arguments. Now we'll see if they do it. Because we've had courts say that they should take Mr. Garcia back from the prison in El Salvador. They haven't, but we'll see if they move her back to Vermont as the judge has required. I hope so.
Well, it's good news as of the moment. We're joined now at the desk by national security expert Juliette Kayyem. Juliette's former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under Barack Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at Kennedy School at Harvard, and a contributing writer at The Atlantic. Hello, Juliette. How are you?
Hi, Juliette. So we've been hearing a lot about concerns about cargo ships coming here, half empty or not coming here at all. We're already seeing the impact at the ports from the tariffs. What's going on?
So I just wrote a piece for The Atlantic on this because everyone's looking at the stock market. You know, does the Treasury Secretary say this? Does that person say that? And it goes up and down. And the metrics that I'm looking as someone who's really, sort of focused on supply chains was what's happening with the goods. Like that seems to me to be the biggest issue with the tariff, not what's happening on the stock market. And I started to see stuff online about like concerns at various ports, and then the numbers started to become clear, 35% reductions in the number of what's called container ships that are arriving from Asia into, in particular, I focus on Los Angeles and Long Beach. Sort of combined, they constitute about 30% of our container capacity, import and export capacity in the United States. Yeah.
That is
They're huge. They're huge. They're together. They're in the Western Hemisphere. They're the largest container
And
port.
they're going to feel it first, obviously, before we do here.
And then what I wanted to do was also look at, we talk about ports as if it's a destination, but actually in my field we talk about port complexes. It's an entire infrastructure and ecosystem that is atrophying because the boats aren't coming in. You're starting to see trucking companies file for bankruptcy. You're starting to see the longshoremen, complaining. There's going to be no activity. You can't turn that on a dime. And to give people a sense of the calendar, why are we slightly panicked this week? Is because if you look at the date of Liberation Day, don't look at when he retracted, because that didn't matter apparently, as we're seeing. Liberation Day, container goods need to be reserved at every 2 to 3 weeks before, and then it takes another 2 to 3 weeks for it to come across. So the last of the pre-tariff reservations across the Pacific are arriving now, and what's behind them is nothing. It's done. Like there's no, as the head of the port said, there's nothing coming.
Two things. One, the fact to me that it happened this quickly is even more frightening.
Well, that's why he's folding.
But you just passed over a point you make in your piece in the Atlantic that is really important. I think a lot of us naively hold out hope. When Trump fades, which I think he will, then everything goes back to normal. It doesn't. Then explain what you said, the trust issue. Well, explain what you said in your piece.
So think of a port. I have a great line from a former captain of that port, actually from the Coast Guard. He says, a port complex is like your pinky toe on your foot. You don't think much about it till you break it, and then you can't walk. So that was to me, that's exactly what's happening, because so let's assume that there's deals, because obviously Donald Trump's very panicked now. He's promising the greatest deal of all time. It's probably going to be with India, and it's probably going to be exactly status quo as we left us 6 weeks ago. They are meeting in China finally. That is not because China blinked, it's because we blinked, and the Chinese are making it clear, and we don't even know if there's a deal. So even if there are deals, these countries cannot be confident that Donald Trump won't blink again, as he did say Sunday night, when all of a sudden he wakes up and decides we're going to tariff the Hollywood industry based on advice he's getting from goodness knows, and he does none of the numbers. The other to remember is, even if the Senate comes in and that vote has lost, Senate has the capacity to recapture its tariff its constitutional duties to oversee and check the president. Even if that passes, even if the House could get the votes, which is not likely, that won't make this start again. It's not an on-off switch. So we're going to start to see it. This is why I think Donald Trump is panicking about this dolls thing. He's been on air for 4 days.
2 dolls rather than 30.
The 16-year-old, which is the weirdest part. But he's talking about girls not getting their 30 dolls. They may only get 2 this Christmas. There's reasons why they're doing that. The first is he's panicked. He's got to warn people there's going to be empty shelves. Second is they're not saying that those 2 dolls are going to be the 2 dolls are going to be more expensive. But more importantly, I read something last night that I thought was interesting. A woman was saying, why are they doing dolls, right? Why is it dolls? And it is, I think, to create the perception that it is childish, that it is girly to be worried about tariffs. And I thought that actually makes sense to me. Why do they keep talking about the dolls? I'm worried about the toilet paper. I'm worried about, the things that I need to replace. I'm worried about groceries. I'm worried about all that stuff.
And by the way, for those who think when Juliette said there hadn't been contact with China, and Trump keeps saying she has been calling me all the time, his own Treasury Secretary was before Congress yesterday and said there'd been no contact with China.
It's
so
incredible.
Can we move on? We got to move on.
The way it says he's bold as brass.
We got to move on here. So when there's a security issue, the question Margie and I always ask you, would you, Juliette, do X? Would you, with your kids, fly in or out of Newark International Airport?
No.
Wow.
Yeah. No.
Why?
Because the data is too, part of it is the safety issue, but the data is clear on the delays. So since I have other options around there, it's not like I'm going to Austin, Texas, where I don't have any options. I have the New York airports. The delays, because they are compensating for the security concerns, so they're just having to delay flights coming in, I think make it a very difficult place to be. So I'm not saying it's unsafe. I'm saying because of the safety measures that they're trying to Band-Aid, because they've lost so many air traffic controllers, that the delays. I'm looking. I think yesterday they had on average a 2-hour and 27-minute delay. Well, that's just that to me it's a 1-hour flight. So I would not do it right now until it can be managed better, including the safety.
Well, but the good news for Marjorie in terms of safety, though, and I really feel good about it. One, she doesn't have a real ID, and 2, she can't find her passport.
Wait a second.
So she's not going anywhere.
Okay, how can I be your friend? First of all, how did you, they've been getting you to get the real ID for 20 years. Okay, you, and do you fly?
I never go anywhere.
So you don't have to worry about it.
I don't have to worry about it.
You actually are. I mean, so the real ID came into effect today. I have another piece posted in the Atlantic, I think, in the next hour about sort of what we're seeing. I was a little bit nervous yesterday. I was looking at the numbers. 20% of the flying population did not have Real ID compliant driver's license. Real ID is this biometric, more secure, sort of a federal identification effort to align what didn't exist before 9/11, which is the 50 states had all sorts of different requirements for how to get an ID and how to get their driver's license. 20 years delays. I thought it was a good idea. I'm not sure 20 years later it's a good idea just because it seems a pain. But what we're learning today, at least anecdotally, is that that Noam panicked last night. She went on air everywhere saying
Head of Homeland Security
saying no one's going to be denied access, because I think there was a big concern like at O'Hare, 20% of O'Hare is a lot of thousands of people mad, and you're not ready for it. And what I'm hearing this morning, at least out of California and here and Boston, is if you come without your Real ID compliant driver's license, they're just handing you a card saying please, please, please get your Real ID.
Oh, good.
They couldn't blink. They actually do have until 2027 to be in compliance with the law. What my concern is that if you looked at the push to get American citizens to get the Real ID, which you might as well just get next time you have to go, because you sort of have to affirmatively choose not to get the Real ID. It's worth getting the Real ID.
If you go to RMV or AAA or whatever it is.
Yeah. But if and the lines, will get lighter over the next couple months about the Real ID. But Secretary Noam and the apparatus around DHS were very much pushing Real ID around the immigration and the immigration enforcement stuff. That's not what it was about. And so she sort of had very mixed messaging, I think, to cater to her base. And they blinked. They blinked this morning.
Do you think you could help Marjorie get her Real ID? Or
I cannot. I need you to just go and have your papers.
I think you can.
I'm not sure.
You
check for. You can do Real ID at a AAA. Just check that. Okay.
I have to get my hair cut.
Can someone
first.
check
I need a haircut.
that, Zoe or Nicole? So
Comedy
we don't give
Central
bad
had a very
information?
funny thing on about the Newark airport, where all these people were calling up and saying, "Oh, can't go to Grandma's 89th birthday party because I'm stuck at the Newark airport and the flights aren't coming out, and they lost my present and they canceled the flight."
Even though they weren't.
Yeah, they were just making it up. It was like this.
They were at home. They were at home.
Yeah, whoops.
Yeah.
I'm at the Newark airport, can't get there.
Well, you saw an interesting, you see the Secretary of Transportation really, he's getting hit, both because of near misses. Sean Duffy.
He's got the
also
reality
Fox
TV
News
show.
reality.
Yeah.
You should have more children and we'll give you more transportation.
Exactly.
That's right.
Okay, we should take a break now.
His wife was on a reality TV show.
She
That's how
was
they
too?
met, I think.
That's really
It was a
fabulous.
reality TV show.
It was in the house. It was in an open house or something like that.
I don't know what it was.
Okay, let's take a break.
Okay, we're talking with Harvard's Juliette Kayyem. The conversation continues after a quick break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Boston Public Radio. Live local conversations every day, brought to you by listener support. Now it's your turn to keep the conversation going with an ongoing contribution in any amount. Please sign up as a sustaining member during our spring membership drive. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
By the way, just so Marjorie doesn't turn red, let me state, this is the only time the whole year we read anything complimentary about our show. Well, our show we talk about, but either of us is during pledge, because some of you who've made contributions are so generous in your praise that it is just spectacular, and we really appreciate it.
People say very nice
but
things.
Here's the critical thing today is here's a friend in Portsmouth, already a sustainer, but want to make use of the Beacon Circle patrons offer to kick in an additional $5 a month. If you're a sustaining member, which means you picked a monthly amount to come out of your checking account, your credit card, and you want to upgrade that amount, whatever amount you upgrade it monthly for, A generous group of Beacon Circle patrons will kick in an extra $5 a month, $60 a year. Because of that, if you're not a sustaining member, become one in whatever amount you can. If you can do it $10 a month, you get the, whatever it is, Stand With the Facts, water bottle, etc. But I have to say, we are really, the donations are coming in, and I hope it's because people are, I hope it's not just because of the federal threat. And the federal threat is real, obviously. But in addition to that, I hope it's because people are realizing, in the words of Joni Mitchell, you don't know what you got till you're gone. Hopefully we're not going to be gone, but people are appreciating more the value of the incredible work our colleagues do here at GBH. We're incredibly grateful for the work they do, and here's your opportunity to contribute to it by going to 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Listen to this from Molly in Harrisville, Rhode Island.
This is a good one.
I grew up listening to GBH as a kid getting ready for school, and my dad was always listening in the early 90s. I'm back in that same kitchen, listening with my own kid now, and I couldn't be more grateful for the reporting and coverage that's become so difficult to find and trust these days. NPR and GBH have always been bastions of truth, and I'm happy to contribute now more than ever. That was really lovely, beautiful. Molly. Thank you very, very much. The number again, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. We also have a lot of people saying nice things about us. Judy from Cumberland, Rhode Island. I love Marjorie and Jim and the Culture Show, and I'm so sad about what's happening with the funding.
Read the second from the bottom, a friend in Newburyport.
A friend in Newburyport says, I'm a big fan of Marjorie.
And it's cut off there.
Oh, yeah,
it's amazing.
It's cut off there.
It's cut off there,
Lynn from Winchester says, high quality reporting and programming, want to help support a free press. You know, we mentioned too that in a lot of places that don't have broadband, that don't have really good internet, what they get is their local NPR
PBS
stations.
and NPR,
really important. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. We're at the Boston Public Library. Jim Browdy, Marjorie Egan, streaming at youtube.com/GBHnews. And we're continuing our conversation with national security expert Juliette Kayyem.
So, Juliette, the Supreme Court has let the president enforce transgender troop ban as the case proceeds. It was one of those unsigned, gave no reasons document from the Supreme Court. But apparently the liberals, Sotomayor, Oleana Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson noted dissents, but provided no reasoning.
Yeah. So this is one of those mysterious yet not so mysterious moments in the Supreme Court in which two lower courts, just to set the table here, let's go back. Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, is on a cultural war within the Pentagon, and that include an early decision or executive order by Trump that he's set that Hegseth has to enforce to ban all transgender troops. So this playing around with the lives of transgender people is they were in and then they were out, and now they were in because of these court stays, and now they're out because the Supreme Court has said that those stays have to be lifted. That means Hegseth, who was quick to get to Twitter on this, can go ahead and ban the transgender troops. The numbers are so negligible given the size of our army in particular. But the court said that there will be additional proceedings. They wanted the substantive argument to be decided by the lower courts involving whether this was violation of equal protection before the stays were put in place or before the merits were decided. So we don't know where the merits will be. I suspect, knowing this court and its feelings about certain things, they're going to give a lot of deference to the president about the content of our military in terms of qualifications, and whatever else, and will probably determine that the president made a strong enough showing to be able to ban the negligible number of transgender, all done to get a tweet and a little bit of Fox News time. So
he did two executive orders on this, Trump. Here's one. It says that adoption of a gender identity inconsistent with an individual's sex conflicts with the soldier's commitment to an honorable, truthful, and disciplined lifestyle. I'll say two things. One, this is from a draft dodger. That's the irony of this. Mr. Bone Spur is saying that these people can't serve honorably. Already, forget in the future. There are a ton, you're right, in the grand scheme of things, not as a percentage, but a lot of trans people who've decided that they're willing to risk their lives for their country. I have not read one report about anything dishonorable or untruthful or undisciplined from a trans member of the military. And yet, because it, as you say, is red meat to the base. Let's target these people, even though they have been willing to commit their lives to protect us.
And look at
while he was
Hegseth.
never willing to commit his life to protect us.
I mean, accused of sexual assault, his own mother saying he's the worst man
That's
ever.
a great point.
Quit drinking if I get the job.
To me, that is like the Trump thing is like
grotesque.
whatever, but that you have Hegseth enforcing it, who's like, he has, you know,
Is
a
he
bunch of
honorable,
wives, and then has this
truthful?
wife
A
who's like
drunk sexual
following,
abuser. Other than
following
that,
him
he's fine.
around, and it's just like, it's crazy. And the hypocrisy is remarkable in terms of what they're able to play. You know, this in their version of what masculinity means, it means that I believe this, that the best woman is the present woman. I mean, in other words, all women are expendable unless it's the one right there. And if you have any doubts about this, I think in 5 years, you're going to see Hegseth with another wife. And that wife will be following him around too. And that is exactly how they portray. And you see this with Donald Trump as well.
Well, there's the manosphere. I mean, you're supposed to be lifting weights all the time. You're supposed to be cruel. You're supposed to be going to watching these fights all the time. You're supposed to be ruthless. I mean, there's a real the model that's held up is not a very empathetic man.
No. It's the derivative female in so many of these cases. And you look at it, I think Hegseth is a perfect example. I mean, Donald Trump's family is a perfect example. Ivanka Trump, I mean, she's like a lifestyle person right now. I follow, for some reason, she shows up in my Instagram and I'm like, she's just doing lifestyle stuff now. Like, it's like all, but if you actually look at Hegseth in particular, and the wanting to get his wife a security clearance, she's in a lot of meetings. She's on these signal channels and stuff, learning about troop deployment. You've never seen anything like that before. I actually think that shows his paranoia. I mean, I think it does show that he's so in over his head. He's just substantively.
I don't want to end this discussion though. Let's get back on this. I'm sorry
on the
this
trans?
is about people who have voluntarily decided to put their lives at risk to serve the country. And again, a president who chose not to serve his country in the military is deciding they are inappropriate people to serve. It's unconscionable.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's not the final word. You both made clear. But as of the moment, I would argue the irreparable harm is to these people who...
So that means that they're at their jobs today and they're about to be removed from their jobs. And that means they have to go out and find another job.
Yeah,
Do they get any kind of severance,
it's a little
or
bit
they
like
get kind of benefits?
The tariff story is that if you actually want to sort of plan your life in a meaningful way, and this is the recruitment issue that we'll see.
Can you get
in government
treated at the VA?
You have no...
Who knows?
But you have no... sense of I can structure my life in a certain way. So of course you're going to retreat. You're going to retreat if you're in another country. You're going to retreat if you're from serving your country in a variety of ways if you're trans.
One last thing about this, if I may, is Marjorie knows, and I've said it on the air about 1,000 times, I'm obsessed by the fact that we almost never read in a story about Trump that he's a felon and found liable for sexual abuse, which would be the equivalent of rape in Massachusetts. How come none of these stories mention, I don't know if they can use the word draft dodger like I did, because he is, but they can at least say, what did he get, 5 deferments for alleged bone spurs? And this guy is saying trans people should not be. I mean, it's just, it is despicable and cruel and stupid.
Yeah, I don't know what a bone spur is, but I would suspect that, like, how much he plays golf, it's not that impactful, right?
That's a very good move.
Right? Because don't you use your, I'm not a golf person.
Well, by the way, you can get a real ID at AAA. Marjorie was right.
Thank you. Thank you, AAA. Thank you. Brought to you by AAA.
You figure if his bone spurs were anything serious, he's 78 years old, he's heavy, that it would hurt him.
He's not heavy. He's like perfectly fit. What are you talking about? He's the fittest American president.
Okay.
Can you tell us everything? You go to the Super Bowl, you go to all these cockamamie places all over the world to consult on security. I would assume the security for the 133 Cardinals or whatever the hell they are is out of control. Is it?
Yeah, it's. Let's just say it's so out of control. I have no transparency on it. I mean, and I know everything. I mean, from the attacks and or the breakup of a potential terror attack against Lady Gaga in Brazil just this weekend.
Thank goodness.
Major sporting events. I have a lot of transparency on lots of people, on ways that you get lots of people together to have fun. This is an entirely different apparatus. Of course, the Vatican has its own security, but they have an overlay by both, not just the Italians, but Interpol the EU and others that are all playing together. Now, you worry about insider threat for something like this, but it's not an armed. It's not an armed group of people, one would assume.
The Cardinals are not backing, in other words?
And your biggest worry, I would think, is wiretapping in the room, right? Because that would be like that. You would have some sense of who's winning. Oh, that's a good conclave too.
That is a good one.
Conclave
I
two
haven't
is
seen it yet. Don't tell me the ending. I haven't seen it. I'm going to watch this weekend. No, I know. Can I say one more thing? You say the biggest worry is that, you know what the biggest worry to me is? The American who's allegedly in the bottom of the top tier ends up being the Pope. I read about this guy and he sounded great. This is Robert Prevost from Chicago. He spent almost his whole career in Peru. He's 69 years old, which is a little young to be Pope, but nevertheless. And he sounded fabulous until Marjorie and I, our colleagues, did a little more research today, and predictably, he was very unhappy with Pope Francis's overtures to LGBTQ people. He allowed people who had been found liable of sexual abuse to be shifted around, a la cardinal law here that we experienced in Boston. And this is, again, all the experts are saying, while he's a long shot, he's at least in the possible category. You know, R.D. Saul, who's the best news person I've ever worked in my life.
Great guy.
Has been to not in the Sistine Chapel, obviously. He's been to conclaves. He told me there's a great word in Italian that I'm going to mispronounce, which is papabile that they use. Do you know what it means in English?
Right.
Popeable. And it basically means that if you're somebody who has a real shot of being the next Pope, you're papabile, he said to me in an email.
Well, you'll enjoy watching
As the Black Smoke started? Yes.
No, well, I think they're having their first vote
so the Black Smoke must have started. We'll wait for White Smoke. But I would think it, honestly, I think it would be terribly risky. The Vatican is not idiotic. It'd be terribly risky to pick an American, given
I don't think
the Catholic Church. If you just look at the age, right? And what's interesting when you said that he was young, the reason why he's viewed as young at 69 is that the feeling is that they chose Pope John Paul when he was too young. You can't really get rid of a pope.
That's right.
And he was pope for 25 years or something. So they always want someone who's going to last about 10 years, which is kind of interesting when you discuss our politics. But yeah, I would think it would be terribly risky for the Vatican, for the cardinals to pick an American who was around and in a leadership position 25 to 15 years ago when here in America, when we know what was happening here.
Juliette, it's good to see you. Juliette Kayyem.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
I'll see you next week.
We have been speaking with our national security expert, Juliette Kayyem, former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under Barack Obama and the faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. Thank you very much, Juliette. After a quick break, NPR host Ari Shapiro, did you know he has got one fantastic voice? He's touring the country right now with his one-man cabaret show. Thank you for listening. We're going to hear all about that. Up next, you're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
So here's the deal. This is our, I don't even know what season, is this summer? Is this the summer, spring, whatever the hell it is? It's our spring pledge drive, and obviously it coincides with a proposal by the President of the United States to get rid of funding for Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which includes, as you all know, PBS and NPR. But we've been doing the same thing even if there were not that threat. One, because a huge percentage of our funding comes from real people like you, which is sort of the cardinal notion that keeps us going, that it's listener-supported radio, which is huge. We obviously appreciate the federal money as well. And this is your opportunity to show you care, even if it were not a scary time. And they've got a great deal here. If you become a new sustaining member, which means you pick a number and you give that much through your checking account or credit card every single month, or if you're already a sustaining member, Margie and I am, if you upgrade your monthly amount or whatever amount, this generous group of Beacon Circle patrons will kick in an extra $5 per month to GBH at $60 a year, which is huge. So use that opportunity, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. And now Marjorie, with great embarrassment, will read some of the comments that listeners who've been kind enough to donate have made about us.
That's right.
Don't be shy.
I repeat that
we're a national treasure.
A friend in
we
Newburyport
said
that they were a big fan of Marjorie. They didn't go on. Said a friend in Belmont says, I listen to it GBH almost all day. I love Jim and Marjorie. This is one way to keep factual news going out to all parts of the United States. That's really important too. So the number again is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. The governor joins us here at the library for an hour to take your questions on Friday of this week. The Attorney General joins us for an hour on May 13th to do the same thing, take your questions. Now, I'm sure you'll recognize the voice of our next guest from this.
I'm Ari Shapiro at a small village in Panama called Limón de Chagres. Amanda Seyfried, welcome to All Things Considered. We're going to hear now from some Americans who watched President Trump's return to office. Got some good news for axolotls. Those are adorable little amphibians with feathery gills and cartoonish smiles.
Now, you might not recognize the voice of our next guest from this.
Never been lonely, never been lied to, never had to scuffle in fear. Nothing tonight true, born at the instant, the church bells chime, and the whole world whispering, born at the right time.
I am in awe. That man behind that voice is, of course, the incomparable Ari Shapiro, host of All Things Considered on NPR. Is currently touring the country behind his one-man cabaret show. It's called Ari Shapiro. Thanks for listening. He joins us now ahead of two local stops this weekend. The first one on Friday at the Nashua Center for the Arts. Second one at Lexington's Carey Hall. For tickets and info, go to arishapiro.work. Ari, it's a thrill to have you here. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Jim and Marjorie. It is great to be with you.
Yeah, it's a thrill to meet you. And not only did I not know you had a fantastic voice, look at how handsome he is. Did you know that?
Okay, don't be so superficial.
I just knew he was on in the afternoon. All Things Considered, I knew he had a great voice on the radio, but I didn't know everything else. So tell us.
You can't hear blushing on the radio.
That's right. But just tell us, I mean, you really got a serious voice. We heard you belting it out with Pink Martini. We're going to hear more about the cabaret in a second. But how did this happen? Did you start out, you were going to be go into musicals or the opera or bands, and then you switched careers?
Yeah, as a kid, I did musical theater, I did choirs, I did things like that. I sang a cappella in college, but I have been a journalist ever since I graduated from Yale and came as an intern to NPR. Journalism has always been my primary focus. But for about 15 years, I've been a frequent guest singer with the band Pink Martini. And then about 5 years ago, I collaborated with the actor Alan Cumming on a cabaret show that he and I do together. And then just more recently, I created this solo show that I'm bringing to Nashua and Lexington this Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, before we talk about the show, by the way, one thing I love about Ari Shapiro already in a minute is when you go to Yale, you're supposed to say, I went to college in New Haven. But he goes right at it. None of that BS. I went to Yale. Is there, before we talk about the one-man show, is there a common thread in your estimation, Ari, between what you do on NPR and what you do on a stage?
There is. They're very different from each other, but what they share is the idea of connecting with people, trying to build empathy, trying to help people understand one another better. And that's something that I do whether I'm reporting stories from, as you just heard, a small village in Panama, or whether I'm telling stories on stage in front of a live audience. But I've always loved something about the live performance experience, whether I'm on stage or I'm in the audience, because it creates something in that moment that will never exist again in quite that way with exactly that group of people.
So tell us more about what people are going to see if they come to your one-man cabaret. What are you going to do?
I feel like I should begin by telling you what you will not see, what you will not hear, which is there will be nothing about the news in this show.
Great.
If you want to hear me talk about the news, tune into All Things Considered this afternoon. We've got 2 hours of it. But this show is much more personal, and hopefully by being personal, it's also more universal. There's a lot of songs by everyone from Taylor Swift to Stephen Sondheim and plenty of others. It's very funny, but also kind of moving. Some of the stories that you'll hear are adapted from my memoir, The Best Strangers in the World. It's about 90 minutes, and I think we all go on a journey together.
Well, that's what you talked about. You talked about the importance of like going on a journey during this cabaret. So what does that mean? You start at A and you end up at Z, or what did you mean?
I have a friend who once said that he thinks that a lot of this was a British friend. He said that specifically he thinks Americans confuse the idea of cabaret and musical review. He said a musical review is just a bunch of songs and stories, but a cabaret has to have a reason for existing. It has to evolve and go somewhere and end someplace different from where it began. And so the kind of loose through line of this particular show has to do with my grandmother, who was a psychic fortune teller. She worked at a carnival outside of Chicago for many years, reading people's cards. And so that is the loose through line, but it also returns to this theme of thank you for listening, which is both the title of the show, something that I say on the radio every day on All Things Considered, and has a few other meanings that I kind of elucidate over the course of the evening.
You know, on our show, we talk about the personal as well as the news, and it's part of our whole format here. But I know a lot of people who do what you do, and one of the many reasons they love what they do is they never have to expose themselves. They're always talking about somebody else, some other things. Was that at all difficult for you, or do you seem to thrive in it?
It was absolutely difficult. It was something that I really had to work on when I started writing a memoir, because as a journalist, the rule is it's not about you.
Yeah.
And if it is, you're doing it wrong. And so being able to put myself at the center of the narrative was not something that came naturally. And it's something that I've kind of had to become accustomed to over time, because I've spent the last 25 years of my career centering the stories of others, which is something that I love to do. But I think there's also value in something like this, where you can be a little more vulnerable, you can be a little more personal, you can talk about sort of what goes into the things that people ultimately hear on the radio.
By the way, on this show, Ari, it's all about us. I want to be very clear. That's why we're here. That's what this thing is about.
That's what keeps people listening.
You know, I have great fear of failure, as Marjorie knows, like insane fear of failure. And when I read last night, lying in bed, that you were denied an NPR internship, my body leaped with joy. How'd you feel when that happened to young Ari Shapiro?
Look, I think we don't talk enough about the fact that failure is a step on the road to success. Failure is not the opposite of success. And I've learned a lot from working with Alan Cumming on the show that he and I do together. But one of the best things I've learned, one of the best lessons he's taught me, is that if you're not risking failure, if you're not doing something that's scary, then you're not doing it right. And this show is a perfect example of that. I had never done a solo cabaret show before. I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know if I could pull it off. And it's been so gratifying to see the reaction of audiences who, in some cases, come up in tears afterwards, to hear the laughter, for people to tell me like this was what they needed in this moment is really gratifying, because it's not something that I was confident I would be able to pull off.
Can I just say one more thing before you take over, Marjorie? You mentioned Alan Cumming a couple of times.
Yeah.
We've, as you can imagine, GBH, just like in your studio, heads of state, presidents, whatever, come through GBH. The greatest excitement I've seen in the 12 years we've been here is anytime Alan Cumming is in the building, and when the butler from Downton Abbey was in the building, the place went wild, I should say.
Yeah.
We're talking Ari Shapiro, and he is going to be in Nashua. We'll tell you again in a minute what the times are. He's going to be in Nashua, and he's going to be in Lexington with his one-man cabaret.
So I'm curious, Ari, for the memoir, The Best Stories in the World, Stories from a Life Spent Listening.
Best Strangers in the World.
Best Strangers in the World. I'm sorry. Best Strangers in the World.
No problem.
Yep. How did you decide? Because you've been everywhere. You've covered wars. You've been, halfway around the world, and obviously here and on your afternoon show. How did you decide what to put in this memoir?
I felt like the book should reflect both how the person I am shapes the stories I tell, and how the stories I've told have shaped the person that I've become. So the stories in the book are about people I've met over the course of my career who will stay with me forever, people who I carry with me for one reason or another. And in a way, it's sort of an extended answer to the question I often get from people, which is, how do you stay optimistic in the face of all the darkness, of all the negative things? And the people whose stories are in this book are the people who give me that optimism and that sense of hope. And I think the cabaret show that I'm doing is a very optimistic show, too. I think people are often surprised that somebody who every day is reporting on wars, natural disasters, political crises, does have a generally positive view of humanity. But the people I've met and the people whose stories I tell in both the book and the cabaret show are the reason I have that view of people.
You should talk more to Jim. He could use a little optimism.
I
over
could
there.
use a little optimism. Well, we're talking to him right now.
Well, Ari, you understand we have to take a quick pledge break, and we're going to be right back to talk more with Ari Shapiro.
I hope people donate.
Yeah, we do too. He, of course, is host of All Things Considered right here on NPR, and the name of his book is The Best Strangers in the World, Stories from a Life Spent Listening, and we're going to tell you all about how to go to his cabaret when we come back. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support. So please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
So we very much appreciate people who have donated already, who have upped their donation, because the president isn't crazy about funding this organization or PBS either. And you think of all the great shows on PBS, from Downton Abbey that used to be on, to all things, to everything great and small, or small and great, whatever it is about the vets. I mean, the midwives, all these great shows, Nova, Frontline, those are all PBS productions, and many of them, if not most of them, are made right here in Boston. So I think the funding really matters. It's easy to donate. You can just call right up the number I'm going to give you in a second, or give securely online. But for $10 a month, we have the very exciting Stand With the Facts water bottle here, a white stainless steel insulated snap closure. It features Stand With the Facts along with NPR and 89.7 GBH logo. So we really appreciate, especially if you've never given before, this would be a good time. If you listen to the station a lot, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we have programming here. It's free, but we ask you to contribute something to keep us on the air, especially right now. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
And let me just say, these comments that some of you choose to leave, which takes a couple of seconds when you make a contribution, are really hugely appreciated. They mean a lot to not just me and Marjorie, our whole team, which is extraordinary, our colleagues who are lucky enough to be on air here too. So keep them coming and give whatever you can give. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org, and we thank you. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy, Marjorie Egan, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're continuing our conversation with NPR's Ari Shapiro, and he will be performing live this Friday night at the Nashua Center for the Arts, and he will be at Lexington's Carey Hall as well. To find out information and to get tickets, go to arishapiro.work.
You know, Ari, you talked a lot about your role as a reporter and an anchor, I guess you would say. But are you an anchor? Is that what we call you on the radio? Okay.
Yeah, anchor, host. Both
anchor, host. And so that's one thing. And then your cabaret is something else. You talked about, one is much more professional. Once you can be a little bit more about your personal life. And I guess when you were concerned about your professional life, you actually asked years ago when gay marriage passed, if you could get married. You asked your boss at NPR about that.
That's right. I got married in 2004 at San Francisco City Hall when Gavin Newsom was the mayor of San Francisco and just decided he was going to do same-sex marriages. And it was sort of the height of the culture wars that became the focus of the culture wars. It was in the news every day. And I felt like, well, as a journalist, I'm supposed to be narrating these debates, not participating in them. So I did. I went and I asked my boss at the time if I could go get married. She said, of course, go get married, be happy. And I said, thank you. I will leave my NPR tote bag at home. Keep a low profile. So, yeah.
So did you mention it on All Things Considered, or was that like a side thing? We're going to be strictly right down the middle here.
I don't think any of the All Things Considered hosts over the years have talked on the air about getting married one way or the other. Yeah.
Okay.
On that note, I saw an interview, I don't remember when, with you, where you told the story about asking permission from NPR to do that. And you used an expression, I hope I got this right, I think I did. You said something like, eventually the country caught up. And we've talked a lot about how a very short period of time, the American people have become overwhelmingly supportive of same-sex marriage. And almost all the polls show that it's because they got to know somebody, a coworker, a neighbor, a friend who was LGBTQ. And do you think the same thing will happen with this whole trans nightmare where some of the most vulnerable people in our country are targeted constantly and don't seem to have the support that we believe every human being should have. Will the country catch up to that too at some point, Ari Shapiro?
I think there are a lot of forces in the country right now that encourage people to isolate in their own bubbles and insulate themselves with people who feel and look and act and believe the same way they do. Social media encourages us to do that. Political discourse encourages us to do that. In everything that I do, whether it is my book, whether it is All Things Considered, whether it is the cabaret show, I am trying to encourage people to see the world through the eyes of someone else, somebody who's different from them. That's one reason I think public media is so important, is that it is for everyone. And we tell the stories of everyone. And there is a strong gravitational pull against empathy, against seeing the world through the eyes of somebody else. And I think whatever small things we can do to help break down those perceived barriers of difference and build bridges across these divides of suspicion is useful. Where it will end up, I can't say, but that's what I try to do in my work every day.
You know, and in your life every day. I mean, I've read a lot about you through the years, and you are a bridge building kind of guy. But we all, I assume everybody here read the story not too long ago when you were prepared to make what had been typical remarks at a corporate pride event. One of your bosses said you shouldn't do it. Ultimately, that was reversed. But what was that like for you, the initial don't go where you've been going before? I assume because of concern of what was happening on the national front.
That is one can of worms that I'm not going to reopen, and we'll refer to NPR spokespeople on that, but I do appreciate the question.
Okay, well then let me ask can I ask a related question?
Yeah. Of course,
Do you think you change at all, even if it's subconsciously, what you do and say, but because of what's hanging over all of us? And before you say no, one of my favorite columnists who resigned from the Washington Post was Ruth Marcus, who was honest enough to admit in a New Yorker piece she wrote after she resigned because her column was spiked at the Washington Post, that she could name at least 2 instances where she pulled back on what she was about to say about her boss, Jeff Bezos, who owned the Washington Post, and what she was going to say about Donald Trump. She admitted to some level of self-censorship. Do you worry that some of us are doing that now, even if not consciously?
There's a phrase that I've seen a lot lately, which is anticipatory obedience.
Exactly.
Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Anticipatory obedience from Tim Snyder, who wrote On Tyranny at Yale, by the way.
Right.
Yes, that's
Except he's gone to Canada.
Anticipatory obedience.
Yeah.
I think it's a really useful phrase. I think it's important to be aware of it. In my own life as a journalist, as a host of All Things Considered, I have not consciously seen or felt that. Is there a miasma in the air that might be subconsciously affecting the editorial decisions we make? If so, hopefully the editorial processes we have in place will take care of that. I often think that if people could eavesdrop on the editorial meeting that happens every morning with the All Things Considered staff, they might not agree with every decision that we end up making, but they would be very proud to hear the conversations that lead to those decisions. It is people in good faith debating and discussing how best to keep our audience informed, how to tell people what they need to know about the world around them, beyond politics, beyond controversies, beyond wars and revolutions, about human life and what it is like to be a citizen in this moment, in this place, at this time. And so I'm very proud of the process and of the outcome. And I am sure anyone who listens often will hear things they disagree with. That is the nature of what we do. But I don't see myself personally, specifically, in identifiable ways, making choices that are different than they would have been if the country were in a different place right now, in a form of anticipatory obedience, if you will.
By the way, I didn't have the date of the second show that Ari's doing in New England. This Friday night at 7:30, I did say he's at the Nashua Center for the Arts. Saturday, the following night at 7:30, he's at Carey Hall, which is a great venue, by the way, in Lexington, Massachusetts.
I'm excited to see it.
Yep.
You know, I was saying before that 60 Minutes is under the gun because the president doesn't like some of their reporting on him, and Sherry Redstone, who owns Paramount, who owns CBS, is trying to finish a deal, and she's said she hoped that they could maybe lay off a little bit. That's my verb, not hers, but basically not antagonize the president too much. And I was thrilled to see 60 Minutes went right after the president again on Sunday night, going after him on the law firms that had knuckled under to him. So they've stood up strong. Although we had Chuck Todd on, who used to be on Meet the Press, he thinks there is some of this anticipatory obedience going on in the press corps, but you do not see that.
It's not that I don't see it at all.
Okay.
In terms of whether I personally have made choices in my journalism or my colleagues in the choices that we make on All Things Considered every day, I have not seen it there. That's not to say I haven't seen it in the country or in the media, but in the journalistic product is a terrible word. In the stories and the journalism that I have my fingerprints on, it's not something that I have experienced, which I think is a testament to the independence of public media and the fact that, we are there for everyone. We create our programs funded by the American people for everyone all over the country, no matter their political background, no matter, who they are.
Do you think sweaty balls on SNL is an accurate portrayal of public radio, Ari Shapiro?
It is wild that has stuck around since, 1995?
It's great.
There are probably listeners who don't even get that reference because that was when I was in high school.
Yeah, it's Alec Baldwin talking about.
It's
very funny. It's worth watching. Ari Shapiro, congratulations on your wonderful career as a vocalist and a singer, and I hope you get a great crowd this weekend. Nashua Center for the Arts on Saturday, Lexington's Carey Memorial.
Friday, Nashua Center for the
Friday
Arts.
for Nashua Center for the Arts. Saturday, Lexington's Carey Memorial Hall. And make sure I got this right. For more information, arishapiro.org. arishapiro.org.
/tour.
Okay.
Great to meet you, Ari.
/tour.
Come back again.
For
Thanks
tickets
so
and
much.
info. Thank you very much, Ari Shapiro. Very much appreciate it. arishapiro.org /tour for tickets and info about Friday at the Nashua Center for the Arts, Saturday at Lexington's Carey Memorial Hall. Thank you very much, Ari Shapiro, for being with us. After the news, our next installment of How Do You Two Know Each Other? With Anna Soetun and Maura Kilpatrick, star-studded local chefs. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Over 70% of GBH's income comes from listener support. And the money you give pays for the programs you listen to and that you value for our newsletters, website, and app. And hey, that includes your Boston Public Radio listening. This is our spring membership drive, and we're raising money to keep these services going in these months ahead. Please make your contributions at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424. I'm Zach Finn, and I'm here with Melissa Jones.
Okay, so we're not the delicious dish, which is what they were just referring to, but we're going to dish up some delicious stuff for you right now. And you have the opportunity to participate. Join with us right now. We're looking for 14 people in the next 4 minutes. We can do it when you get on the phone or give us go online right now. Become a sustaining member or make that one-time gift at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And today is the day to be a sustaining member. Sign up as a new sustaining member or upgrade your monthly gift, and a generous group of our Beacon Circle patrons will kick in an extra $5 per month to GBH. This sustainer add-on is today only, and that makes now an amazing time to become a new sustaining member, or you can simply increase your monthly amount. And again, sustaining members, they're vital to GBH, especially with the uncertain future of public media's federal funding. So that's why Beacon Circle patrons are stepping up, adding this $5 a month to your monthly sustaining membership today. Get that call started, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Like Zach was saying, if you can step up your sustaining membership just by a couple of dollars right now, you will qualify for that. And that's a great way to increase your support in GBH right now. It's easy to do. It won't make a big difference to your bank account, but it will make a huge difference in our ability to serve you and what you hear at GBH every single day. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And when you support GBH today, we're going to thank you with our Stand With the Facts water bottle. It's a white stainless steel bottle, insulated, features that statement, Stand With the Facts, along with the NPR and 89.7 GBH logo. Hey, you listen to NPR, you listen to GBH, and you stand with the facts. So sign up as a sustaining member, $10 a month. You can also give $120 all at once if you prefer. Either way, get that call started. Again, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
If you've ever talked back to the radio as though Jim and Marjorie were right there in the room with you, then it's time to give, especially when you're certain that you're right and they're wrong. Come on. Please support your BPR listening by making that contribution right now, and then carry on keeping up with Jim and Marjorie and keeping them in line. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
All right. We are now looking for just 7 more gifts. We have 7 more gifts this hour, and we have a couple of minutes to get it done. You can get that call started now. Help us out with this all-important goal, 888-897-9424, or go online, gbhnews.org.
Sign up as a sustaining member, upgrade that monthly gift, and a generous group of Beacon Circle patrons are going to kick in that extra $5 a month to GBH. The Sustainer add-on is today only. It makes it a great time to become a new sustaining member or increase that monthly gift. Make a $10 a month sustaining gift right now. We're going to send to you that great water bottle that Zach has been describing to you. All of this needs to happen today, though, in order to take advantage of this great additional gift from our patrons with that sustaining gift and get that water bottle. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Bryant University, where tomorrow's leaders can discover that beautiful grit gets you in the know, the room, and in demand. Learn more at bryant.edu. And Safety Insurance, offering auto insurance policies designed to help for when the worst happens. You can ask an independent agent about safety insurance. Safety Insurance. We'll help you manage life's storms.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Cabral, head on Hour 3 of Boston Public Radio, live from the Boston Public Library. It's the latest round of How Do You Two Know Each Other? This time with chef and baker duo Anna Soetun and Maura Kilpatrick. What began as a partnership with the great Oleana in Inman Square in Cambridge has blossomed into the award-winning Sofra Bakery, which recently opened its second location in Olston.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then ending today, it's icing on the cake. Keeping on the pastry front, phone lines are open at 877-301-8970 for pastry and you. Eclairs, croissant, cougamans, tarts and strudels, brioche, donuts. What gets your mouth watering the most? Where's your go-to pastry shop here in Boston? Can the city compete with the best? You tell us. All that and more ahead. Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. India is defending its strikes on parts of Pakistan and Pakistani-controlled territory early Wednesday. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri has more on India's actions, marking the most dramatic escalation in tensions the nuclear-armed neighbors have faced in years.
These actions were measured, non-escalatory, proportionate, and responsible. They focused on dismantling the terrorist infrastructure and disabling terrorists likely to be sent across to India.
India accuses the Pakistani government of being complicit in militant attacks, including deadly violence against tourists in Indian administered Kashmir last month. But Pakistan's Minister of Information, Atullah Tarar, argues Pakistan itself has repeatedly been the target of terrorist attacks.
We've been saying that the Pahalgam incident deserves an investigation, a fair and impartial investigation. India ran away from the investigation, and now they've run away after attacking civilian population in Pakistan. But we've responded back and we've shot down some planes. We stand against terrorists. We stand against terrorism. We've given 90,000 lives in the war against terrorism. And we played our part to make the world a safer place.
The top Pakistani and Indian officials were heard on the BBC. Houthi rebels in Yemen say they will keep striking targets in Israel. That is despite a deal announced by President Trump ending the weeks-long strikes between U.S. forces and the Iranian-backed militants. More from NPR's Carrie Khan.
Houthi spokesman Mohammed Abdul Salam says the U.S. deal does not include Israel. In a social media post, Abdul says Israel targets will continue to be hit in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza. A missile fired from Yemen landed near Tel Aviv's airport Sunday. Israel quickly retaliated. Trump's announcement of a deal mediated by Oman to end hostilities took Israelis by surprise. That's according to an official with knowledge of the matter who spoke on condition of anonymity. Another comment by Trump Tuesday that only 21 hostages in Gaza are still alive drew condemnation from relatives of those held there. Officially, Israel says 24 are living. The hostage families are demanding Israeli officials release any new information. Carrie Khan, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
WYPR's Scott Maucione reports a federal appeals court will soon decide whether it was legal to fire roughly 24,000 federal probationary employees without notifying states.
A panel of 3 judges listened to arguments from 19 states about how they believe they were harmed by the White House's mass layoffs. The states are seeking the reinstatement of the employees. They say without proper notification, they had to rush to provide benefits like unemployment insurance. The White House says it did not initiate an official reduction in force and therefore did not need to notify the states beforehand.
That's Scott Maucione reporting. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Longtime Massachusetts Congressman Stephen Lynch is facing a challenger in next year's Democratic primary. Today, Patrick Roth launched his campaign to unseat Lynch and represent the state's 8th district that covers parts of Boston and the South Shore. Roth is a lawyer and voting rights advocate who worked under former Governor Deval Patrick. In a campaign announcement video, the 38-year-old says Congress needs new leadership, fresh ideas on issues like housing and the cost of education and health care.
That's why I also think we need to have a conversation about whether there should be term limits on members of the House, because we've got to get some new people down there and new thinking and new energy. And look, it's obvious that there are some Democrats in Washington who just don't get what we're up against.
The 70-year-old Lynch has served in Congress since 2001. The Democratic primary still more than a year away. And after nearly 2 years of negotiations, the resident physicians, interns, and fellows, also known as house staff at Mass General Brigham, reached a tentative agreement on their first labor contract late last night. Represented by the Committee of Interns and Residents, the doctors say the deal, which includes an overall compensation increase of up to $25,000 per resident, a $50,000 wellness budget to support resident mental health resources, and critical due process protections, will have a direct impact on both their well-being and their ability to provide high-quality patient care to the Boston community. The over 2,600 MGB house staff worked more than 80 hours a week, and despite serving Massachusetts' large healthcare system, the largest residency and fellowship program in the country, they were struggling to afford basic necessities like rent and groceries. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing, and trading on Thinkorswim. Learn more at schwab.com. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting, thank you, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and eating some of the most wonderful pastry I've ever had. Hello again, Jim. Hello again, Jim.
By the way, we have a slight change. The governor will still be here this Friday for an hour from noon to 1. The Attorney General has changed her date. She'll now be with us on May 21st. And Mayor Wu will be with us on May 23rd, each for an hour at the library to take our questions and yours. In any case, welcome to another edition of our relatively new segment, How Do You Two People Know Each Other? We're joined at the BPL desk by James Beard Award-winning chef Anna Soetun. She's executive chef over at the great Oleana in my neighborhood in Cambridge. Also here, James Beard finalist pastry chef Maura Kilpatrick. Nowadays, they're co-owners of Sofra Bakery in Cambridge and now in Allston as well. But their relationship has roots that go far before Sofra. Anna, Maura, it's great to have you here. Welcome. It's great to see you.
Yeah, well, thank you both for coming in, and thank you for this delicious food, which you're going to describe in just a second. But why don't we start with you? Want to tell us how you two know each other?
Maura and I met in the 90s
working for a chef named Monsef Medeb at a restaurant called 8 Holyoke in Harvard Square.
Yeah.
It was like 94 or something like that. And Maura was actually on the floor waiting tables, and I was in the kitchen.
Food server, yeah.
And we needed a pastry chef. And I was like, hey, wait a second, you went to school in California for baking. How about, switch places and come back in the kitchen? And so that's kind of how it started.
Is that a true story?
Yeah, it's a true story.
You became a pastry chef because they needed a pastry chef?
No, I had training. I went to school, but I needed to supplement my income, so I was waiting tables at night, and then, she gave me a try in the kitchen, and then
the rest is history.
Okay, how do you decide to be a pastry chef? I think I missed my calling actually, even though I'm a lousy cook. But I think maybe if I learned earlier, how do you decide that? Did you just, as a kid, did you like sweets, or what was the deal?
It's really interesting because I think back when we met, it wasn't, or when we grew up, it wasn't I don't know, as much of a profession as it is now, so but I always worked in restaurants, and I always was interested in desserts, and I always was collecting food and wine magazines, and I always was baking way beyond my capabilities. When I was at home and making things for family, I would just try making yeasted bread that I didn't know, or whipping. I made this cake once with egg whites, and it was that tall, and I didn't understand why.
Speaking of didn't understand, Marjorie's working at an ashram in college when she was at Stanford, and she ate bread that she had baked before it had risen.
Yeah.
And what happened, Marjorie?
Well, I thought my stomach was going to explode. I'd be on the front page. Co-ed stomach explode would have been very embarrassing.
So, Anna, you were at a French cooking school. I didn't know this till the other day. When you were 12 or something, or a teenager or some such thing?
Yeah, a teenager. Yeah, I started working in a restaurant when I was 14. I fell in love with it. I decided I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to go to this very cool cooking school in Paris. And in order to do that, though, I had to speak French. So instead of going to college, I just went to a tiny little French school full-time until I passed a fluency requirement test. And then, I went to Paris to learn how to cook when I was 19.
Was that intimidating?
Yeah. It was probably the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, for sure.
You had a great line in one of these stories I read where you're talking about how you could have a great meal, cooked French food, cooked in Paris, and feel like you're in a coma at the end of the meal, and you can eat Turkish vegetables and feel fantastic. So what's that about?
Well, when I was invited to Turkey for the first time, I didn't know much about Turkish food. I just sort of imagined genies and flying carpets and really exotic things. Yeah. But these 30 women created a lunch for me. It was a giant potluck in a park, and I tasted 30 things, and I realized, first of all, they were amazing, and they were all so rich in flavor, but nothing was heavy. And I realized, wow, I just tasted 30 things for lunch, and I feel great. Whereas if I were to have had a 30-course tasting menu in France or something, I wouldn't have felt great. So it sort of opened up a new window for me in how to cook and sort of what I was aiming for professionally.
And you crawled out of that window into Oleana in 2001. What was the restaurant scene like in 2001 in Greater Boston? Obviously in Cambridge and Inman Square, a couple blocks from my house. What was the restaurant scene like then?
Lots of amazing restaurants, lots of Mediterranean restaurants, mostly focused sort of on the central part of the Mediterranean, right? So a lot of, Greek, Provençal, tons of Italian places. And really, when I came back from Turkey, my goal really was to try to expand people's perception of what Mediterranean food was and just take it a little further east. So not a lot of, and it was 2001, so Middle Eastern anything was a risk and a bad word.
That's a really good point that
That's
I never
right.
thought of.
That's right. And I read the Deborah First piece in the Globe when she went back there in 2019 and described Oleana as an enchanted place with a secret garden. So describe a little bit what it looks like inside, because there is a certain enchantment going on there.
In the garden, yeah.
In the whole place, you can explain it.
Okay, you explain it, Anna.
Yeah. It's teeny tiny. I don't know. There's lots of little rooms. It's kind of a quirky little spot. It was Daddy-O's and a total bohemian almost like biker bar before Daddy-O's. It's been a restaurant for ages, but what drew us to it was this magical garden in the back, where you sort of feel like you could be anywhere.
Yeah.
By the way, the garden. If you've not been to the garden,
It's gorgeous.
In the back, there is really nothing like it anywhere, and the food even comes with it. It is surreal. Okay, so fast forward to 2008, and the two of you decided to do this Sofra thing. Sofra means picnic. Is that what I read? Is that true or no?
Yeah, it's one of the meanings. It means
what else?
Picnic like on a blanket, or it also means like this is the food we prepared for you. So we're preparing a Sofra for you, and it's also like synonymous with generosity and hospitality.
Oh, I love that definition. You're going to tell us, we're going to show people what food you brought in a second. So how did 2008 and Sofra come about?
We had been looking for a while for a few places. We talked about it. And Anna tells a story how, like, when we opened Oleana, and I opened it with her, that we agreed to open a bakery someday. And
I bribed her.
Because I was just helping out a little bit at Casablanca when she was there in Harvard Square, and I didn't have a job. And I remember calling her and saying, like, she needed someone. I'm like, I don't have a job right now. And then she invited me in and said, well, I'm going to open my own place in a few months, so just stick around, and then if you do this, then we'll open a bakery someday.
And then Alston was a couple years ago. You know, I have to say, and I know this is an extreme statement, but it's true. If I've driven by Sofra in North Cambridge, maybe, 500 times in my life, there has never not been a line. Is that okay to say? Because I don't want to discourage people. There's always a line, which is a tribute, obviously. Not.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that feel like? I mean, isn't that
yeah,
incredible?
it's pretty cool, actually. Like when you're like, especially in the afternoon for like us bakers when we're there so early, and then we leave and it goes like down the street, like by the employee entrance, and you're like, sorry,
it's
like,
great.
Get out the door.
So can I just finish the story? I'm going to make it triumvirate for a second, and then you'll say these beautiful things that you bought. And then a couple of years, I think it was 2013, you and Cassie Puma do Sarma in Sofra. We invited Cassie today. She had a conflict. She's nominated for James Beard Chef of the Country.
Outstanding.
Outstanding chef. How do you, and Sarma's spectacular too, a variation on Oleana, I think it's fair to say. Is that okay? That's fine to say. It's a long time how do you all get along?
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
for a second.
We've been through thick and thin together, all of us. Yeah.
And it's good?
Yeah. I mean,
it's really, really hard to find because we hear from other people who are looking, at least I do, like for looking for advice on partnerships, and they're like, yours is so great. Like, how do you do this? And
what's the answer to that? How do you? I mean, that's a critical question for people running a business. Is that really what it is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or maybe it's women.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Although we have a male business partner in the mix too. There's
your husband?
Gary. Gary's our business partner in all three
responsible for
places.
the garden at Oleana.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
We can let him in to fix the garden.
And your husband's Sienna Farm, named after your kid, right?
That's right.
Who provides a lot of the whatever.
Yeah.
And
okay.
you were talking about Sienna Farms, and again, one of these stories, and talking about potatoes. I'm a big potato fan, but I never realized I've been eating the wrong potatoes for years. You talk about potatoes coming out of the ground and their skin being paper thin so that you can almost skin them with your hands.
Yeah.
So do we have to go to Sienna Farms to get those? Or we have to grow them in our own backyard?
It's a fresh dug potato, yeah. So either way, like either just getting them from any local farm in the summertime when they're dug up before they've been stored for about a week until their skin starts to thicken. But yeah, a fresh potato, the sugars haven't converted to starch yet, so
that's going to be a whole different experience.
They're very different. They're wonderful.
Look at the look on Marjorie's face.
Well, I mean, Irish girl, love a good potato.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, before we take a break, describe what's on both sides of you. I think we can get a shot. Can we get a little bit more of a close-up of this incredibly beautiful?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so describe what that is first, what we see on the screen. What are we looking at? Point to the different things and tell us. You want to do that? Anna, is that you?
Oh, yeah, sure. These two are flatbreads. They're stuffed. They're made with a dough called yufka that we make with a fresh wheat that's ground in Massachusetts up at One Mighty Mill in Lynn. One's stuffed with spinach. The other one is like a Greek-style sausage. And then these are our chicken shawarma, which have a garlic sauce on the side there. So these in Turkey they would call these gözleme. They're just little stuffed pancakes.
Stuffed with what?
One's with spinach, and the other one's with like a Greek-style pork sausage and feta butter.
So do you want to move to the other side there? And is that
is
you
what
on the
I've
other
tried.
side there,
These
Maura?
are awesome.
What is this?
Oh, okay. These are our version, ode to Cassie and Sarma of the Black Sea cornbread, not competing with that magical thing that she makes, but which is baked to order. But
Your
this
cornbread and her cornbbread is the best cornbread on the planet.
It's
Can we agree?
unbelievable.
On
I
the
agree.
planet. Go ahead.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay, and what's this little thing covered with like heart attack stuff? What is this thing? What is that?
So that's actually like one of the inspirations for the bakery too. In the beginning, it's we call it a morning bun, and there's a lot of versions of morning buns that are usually croissant dough twisted with cardamom sugar. We just decided to cube up croissant dough and put it in like a monkey bread style, and the glaze is orange blossom water and orange juice.
Oh.
I'm going to eat it while Marjorie starts the pledge in a second.
Yeah,
which
we have to take it.
Don't go away, you two.
Quick break because you came during pledge time, but we're going to come back and talk with Anna Soetun and Maura Kilpatrick of Sofra right after this quick pledge break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
If you listen to Boston Public Radio 3 hours a day, that's 15 hours a week, 60 hours a month, and 720 hours a year. Maybe it's time you pitched in. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
That's right, 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. What happens is when people contribute, they often agree to leave a listener comment. And so these are some of the comments that we read from you guys during pledge. Here's one from a friend in Wakefield. During a time when democracy is at stake, it is essential to have a station that speaks truth to power. I'm an avid listener of Boston Public Radio and grateful for the variety of programming provided. Thank you for all you do, which is really a great message because we are under the gun from the president. Edward in Boston says, for the truth, freedom of speech, Jim and Marjorie on Boston Public Radio, amazing reporting from Philip Martin and the whole team. And we do have a whole team here. We're on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have programming all weekend long. So it's us 15 hours during the week, but it's our colleagues that put on the news and put on the great programming we have here, as I said, round the clock. The number again is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Do you remember in the first hour someone called us a national treasure?
National
Marjorie?
treasure, I like that. Yep.
Jim
national
and Marjorie,
treasure.
national treasure. I love that. In any case, as Marjorie said, here's the deal. It's really a special deal on day one of the pledge deal. If you become a sustaining member, which means you agree upon a certain amount of money, whatever amount makes sense for you, if it's $10 a month, you get this great thank you gift, the Stand with the Facts. It's on Marjorie's little counter there. 20-ounce white stainless steel insulated bottle with a snap closure. If you contribute less or more or whatever, you become a sustaining member. Or if you're already a sustaining member, as Marjorie and I are, and you upgrade the amount of your monthly gift, a generous group of Beacon Circle patrons will kick in an extra $5 per month, that's $60 a year, to GBH. We should make clear, again, the number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Takes only a couple of seconds. We'll be doing this, and we hope you will contribute, not just because NPR and PBS are under the gun, but because you value what our amazing colleagues do here. And we don't talk enough about our staff. Our team, some of whom you know, are as talented and hardworking as any bunch of people Marjorie and I have ever been lucky enough to work with. And without them, we get the spotlight because we're lucky enough to be on the air. Without the wonderful work of the people who produce this show, it wouldn't happen. So you're giving for all of us, and we really appreciate it. Please call 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. And I want to reintroduce, before I do, I just had a bite of that. Did you eat this morning thing?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Oh, my God. I mean, oh, my God. But in any case, let me just say who is with us.
Yep.
Anna Soetun, who is mostly identified with Oleana. She's also the co-founder, et cetera, with Maura Kilpatrick, who is also here of Sofra Bakery, now in Cambridge and in Allston. And obviously, Anna also, along with Cassie Puma, were responsible for the great Sarma in in Somerville.
So this morning when I was getting ready to talk to you guys, I'm reading the menu from Sofra, the layered phyllo pastry, baked until crisp, soaked in syrup, and the sweet cheese sandwich with shredded phyllo-like pastry.
It's like an
also
orgasmic
soaked
reading this
in
morning,
spirit.
I should
Dimple
say.
bread
It
baked
was.
with oil. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know how you do it. I would be eating this stuff all day long. I'd have a million cavities and probably weigh 450 pounds.
So what?
Well, I mean, do you have an insatiable sweet tooth, or how do you deal with this?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't even eat
Lucky
this stuff,
you.
she's going to say.
No. I taste.
You taste?
Yeah. But I rarely. Let me see. I'm looking at the cookies. If I could eat a whole cookie. If I eat a whole cookie,
You could eat a whole cookie?
No, it's true.
I could
Oh,
eat
my
a
God.
whole cookie? Okay, let's move
But
past
you have
this.
great desserts at Oleana, too. Anna, do you ever indulge the desserts at Oleana, or are you out there eating the lettuce leaves or something?
No. Unfortunately, I'm attracted to the desserts as well.
I
love
know,
them.
me
Yeah, I love
too.
them.
And you have great desserts. That's very important, the great desserts.
Oh, I understand that. Can we move on
That's
here?
the first place I had olive oil cake. Was at your place, the chocolate olive oil cake.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, my God. How's business?
It's great. It's
Is it really
okay.
great?
Yeah, it's
Here's
okay.
what I'm surprised that you're saying, because we've talked to a lot of independent restaurateurs who are almost everybody like you guys, totally connected to the community in addition to providing wonderful food. On one hand, I thought you were going to say it's so because on one hand, people are nervous about the economy and their personal economies. But on the flip side, I know for myself, I go out and eat more when I'm feeling miserable, when the world around me is collapsing, and you want comfort and you want to be surrounded by other people even if you don't know them. So is the latter what's causing business to be as good as it is, or what is it?
I think so. I mean, first of all, the places are small. I mean, Cambridge is tiny. Oleana is pretty small. Sarma's got an incredible, accolade that it's looking at right now. So I mean, things are okay. Sofra and Alston took us. It's only 5 months old now. It took us a little bit to get that off the ground, just because that's a brand new neighborhood for us.
Right near Trader Joe's.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But the it's slowly getting to where it could be. But I don't know. I believe in this economy that like people are going to look for that dopamine in the cookie a lot, and it's an affordable dopamine hit, right? It's not a new car or something.
Are you having trouble keeping workers? We hear that a lot too. Getting workers that you need more, or no?
Well, it's interesting now that so we moved our whole baking operation over to the Alston location because it's so much bigger, and then we transport our pastries every morning to Cambridge. And as bakers know, like you're usually in a corner in the back of a kitchen somewhere, and here we have the most massive space. So as a baking team, like they have a lot of space. They're almost like working at a culinary school. They have so much space. And so our team is like really, really, really solid right now, but it did take a while to get there. And if you lose someone, it could take like a long time to find someone to fit in.
Yeah.
But like right now, we're really solid.
Soetun, tell us about the menu, the non-pastry menu at Oleana, because it's very different food from what some people have had.
Yeah, I mean, it's inspired mostly by Eastern Mediterranean, particularly Turkey, and the travels. I continue to go once or twice a year, so I'm always very inspired by the food there. So that is, and the chefs are as well. In fact, two of the chefs, the chef at Sofra and Alston and the chef at Oleana are coming to Turkey with me next week. So there's a little bit of research ongoing, but lots of inspiration drawn from there. So yeah, we do a lot of small plates, meze, and then we have a signature chicken that's not a small plate at all. That's the only sort of large plate on the menu. But so you basically can cruise through a lot of different small plates, and then if you are still hungry, have a bigger protein kind of thing.
And you talk a lot about how crucial the seasonings are, and the quality and the freshness.
Everything.
Yeah, and again, I think that's something like, I suppose people in your business know, but I don't think a lot of the rest of us realize how big of a deal that is.
I'm a big ingredient seeker. That's kind of what I do. I just sort of hunt for really good ingredients a lot. That's a big part of my job over the years, over many, many years. And then obviously being married to a vegetable farmer has really taught me a lot about what fresh really is. Like it's like It's kind of like if you have a croissant at Au Bon Pain at the airport or something like that. I don't even know if sorry if they're still around, but you know what I mean. Like, and then you go to Sofra and you have one of Maura's croissants. You're like, okay, wait a second,
exactly.
I'm very
cool.
upset about the potato information. I just can't go buy
Well,
them
go
anywhere
get a damn
anymore.
fresh
I'm gonna have to go out to Sienna Farms and get some fresh potatoes.
Well,
but
grow
you told
for-
me I have to wait till summertime. Did you tell me I have to wait till summertime?
Yeah, till July when they
Okay.
dig them in July.
This conversation is far too high road for me. Can we? So the three of you got along great. What's the worst fight you ever had? You don't have to give us every gory detail, but what's the worst knockdown, drag down?
I tried to think about this because I knew you were going to try to put us on the spot a little bit.
And there hasn't been one?
We've never had a fight. We've had many disagreements because you can't agree on everything, right?
Yeah.
But we've never had like a fight.
That is, do you know how incredible that is?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it really is. I also think another thing that helps with all of us and kind of like know when to have a conversation and when not to have a conversation.
Right.
So like, all right, I'm not going to talk to anyone today. I mean, speaking for myself, I'm like, I can't talk to anyone today. So you know what I mean? I know when to not approach
but that's part of a
subjects.
relationship,
Yeah,
is you know how to work it. I don't mean work it in a pejorative way,
No,
but
yeah, exactly.
how to coexist in a positive kind of deal. Anything happening in the future, you two, or over there at Sarma, we should know about, or just keep doing great things like you've been doing?
Well, hopefully there's still some, I think Maura and I are both recovering from the Alston project, so we're taking a little, we're just still trying to get that on the ground, but I feel like there'll be hopefully another fun project around the corner.
And there's more seats in Austin too. I think it's seats
double,
35,
right?
35
So much.
now.
It's very big.
Yeah, that's a big difference. It's twice the size at least, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
One last quick question. I know that obviously, as you just said, there are two Sofras now. I always wonder and admire in a weird way, when someone is as successful in a restaurant as you are and Cassie Puma is, and I've asked her this question too when she's been on, isn't there a part of you that says, we got to multiply, or do you decide, I just want to make this as good as it can possibly be?
Yeah, for me, that's my cup of tea. We don't have the need to open up lots and lots. We just really, each one is sort of like its own individual personality and requires its own, caretaking, whatever. But they each have their own thing. We don't necessarily want to copy and paste anything.
You're really well adjusted, aren't you?
Well adjusted.
You seem to be really well adjusted,
It's
self-aware,
relative to him. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you,
Thanks, Jim. No one's ever said that to me.
Well, I'm saying it now. You and three of the best places on the
Yeah.
planet, and we're thrilled to have you here. And we
I
wish
also
you...
think the circumstances at
What's
Sofra Cambridge really forced us to look for another location.
Because of the space
it
thing,
was
you mean.
really
Yeah, I know.
unsustainable.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad you did.
Yeah.
Closer to us in Brighton. And
Many
we're
of us have been many times to all your places, and they're just phenomenal.
And thanks
thank
for your
you very much
generosity
for coming
today.
in
We're very excited.
Today. Next time, I'm going to have to get the syrup-soaked sponge cake. That sounds
Listen
really
to her
good,
say
too.
it. Say it again.
Syrup-soaked sponge cake.
Exactly.
Yes, and I don't care if it's got a little hole in the middle. I like that with a little depression in the middle. That's okay. Thank you so
Anna
much
and
for
Maura,
coming
it's
in.
great to have you here. Thank you so much.
for
really
having us
appreciate
on
it.
your
Thanks.
show.
Oh,
Appreciate
absolutely. We've been speaking with the co-owners of Sofra Bakery, James Beard Award-winning Anna Soetun, and multiple James Beard nominee Maura Kilpatrick. SofraBakery.com, and that's, by the way, is SOFRA, SofraBakery.com, or check out Anna's other restaurant, Oleana in Cambridge, by going to oleanarestaurant.com. That's the enchanted place. After a quick break, we are on a roll here, Jim. We're going to keep talking bakery. We're going to keep it going. How do you feel about pastries? What do you love? What do you savor? What do you throw in the garbage? What's your favorite place to go to get a nice sweet? How particular are you about your pastries? You are listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference, but please giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
And generally, I'm probably wrong about this, but I think attractive incentives, I don't just mean a great gift, usually wait till later in the pledge, but this deal where if you become a sustaining member or you upgrade your existing sustaining membership with a little bit more money monthly, And then the Speak and Circle patrons will kick in an extra $5 a month. The GBH is a wonderful reason to give. And the most important reason to give is not the threat hanging over our heads from the feds. The most important reason to give, in my estimation, is because you value what our colleagues do here. We're as much consumers of GBH radio as you are. We perform on it, or we talk on it, or whatever verb you want to use, 15 hours a week, but we listen to it almost all the time when we're not on. We learn a lot. We value the information like you do, and here's an opportunity to show how much you value it. And by the way, if these are tough times for you or fearful economic times, give what you can. Give a small amount of money, maybe once. If you can afford to become a sustaining member, if you can afford a level of giving that maybe is a little bit more than you intended, but it's not going to break your budget, do it. And we really appreciate it at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Here's Jocelyn from Portsmouth, Rhode Island. She's thrilled to support the station, period. Jim and Marjorie make her day. It's part of her strength. Here's Joan from Essex. I really appreciate the program with Jim and Marjorie. Worthwhile, particularly with what's going on lately. I'm very keen on getting the facts and the correct information. We have lots of people who are fans of The World Show, which comes on right after Jared Bowen's show, and there are also people who are big fans of Jared's show at 2 o'clock, The Culture Show, which comes on right after us. And as Jim said, we do have, we have great shows on the weekend. On the Media is a great show that we broadcast, I think, at 10 o'clock every Saturday morning. I think we rebroadcast it at 1, all about what's going on in the press, and particularly with the president trying to crack down on the press. That's a great show too, to show people fighting back. So if you can give $10 a month, we have this great prize for you today. This white stainless steel 20-ounce insulated bottle, sharp snap closure to put your water in, your coffee in, or whatever you want to put in it. We appreciate that. Stand with the facts along with NPR and 89.7 logos are on the side. That's $10 a month, and we greatly appreciate your taking the time to give. It's very quick and painless. 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
Before we continue, I feel, this is Zoe writing us, I feel like we zoomed too fast beyond the fact that she said there's feta butter in some of those pastries. This Greek meaning Zoe, is salivating, jaw on the floor, mind blown. Thank you. Check them out. They're both not only great restaurateurs and chefs, but great members of the community too. You're listening to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie and Jim Browdy live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Ask the Governor is Friday, plus from Boston calling artist Latrell James and the festival's co-founder. Ask the AG is now the 21st of the month, and Ask the Mayor with Mayor Wu is the 23rd. We're continuing our pastry conversation with you. For the rest of the show, the lines are open, 877-301-8970. Are pastries the most versatile food? Sweet, savory, vegan, gluten-free, like dumplings. Every culture has a pastry. Which is your favorite? Is there anything more satisfying than that first bite of a muffin, like this morning muffin? Just the top for me. Marjorie eats the bottom, which I don't understand at all. Or a piece of honey-soaked baklava. Our number's 877.
Honey-soaked baklava.
Oh my God! So the word "soaked" in any of these things is very alluring.
Yeah, I love soaked.
877-301-8970. Maybe they're not the healthiest thing all the time, but they are so good. Marjorie often has the carrot cake here at the Newsfeed Cafe as a lunch kind of thing, saying it's a vegetable, so that takes care of those needs.
It's one of the original dishes made by the woman who started the
Catered Affair.
Yeah, Catered Affair. Thank you very much.
And for anyone who maintained yesterday that Dunkin' Donuts has the best baked goods, call back today. We need to talk. 877-301-8970. Pastries and you. Here, who wrote this? It was Hannah. I knew it was Hannah, our bike riding colleague. The reason I ride bikes is so I can eat pastries every 25 miles.
Yeah, that's right. They are kind of fattening, but they are sort of good. And they're doing a lot of soaking with syrup over there at Sofra. When you read the menu, it's a lot of a syrup-soaked cake made with semolina. I mentioned before the phyllo pastry, crisp, and then soaked in syrup. I mean, and this morning cake we had, that's got soaked with some
morning muffin thing.
Yeah, morning muffin thing on the top. I mean, it's great. I absolutely love pastry. I mean, it's one of my favorite things in the world. There are all sorts of places. There's a place, because Sofra's in Cambridge, so it's a little bit further for me to get to. Now I can go to the one in Alston near Trader Joe's, which is great because that's much closer to me. But a place that's really easy because I always park there is this Japanese place on Beacon Street.
Oh, I've been there.
Near St. Mary's.
It's fabulous.
Oh my God, they have the white bread, and then they have the little, like a brioche kind of dough that's filled with cream Oh my God! And then they have pastries with real whipped cream on the inside. I mean, it will kill you fast, but you know what I mean. You'll die happy. Jim,
Exactly. You're going to die anyway. 877-301-8970. We're looking about your relationship with pastry. If you want to name a favorite place and argue why it is your favorite place, we're happy to hear from you about that too.
And their cornbread now. I consider myself a cornbread
You're
aficionado. When
you
it comes
are.
to baked potatoes and cornbread, those are my areas of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
But cornbread is really different and really great, and it's really moist.
It's great at salmon too.
That is the key. It has to be moist.
You know what the problem
Very
I have
moist.
with their cornbread? It's not soaked. What I've learned from you is it has to be soaked.
Syrup soaked.
To be syrup soaked.
Soaked in
excuse
syrup.
me.
Doesn't that sound great? Can you just see all the sugar just getting absorbed?
Well, you know, I'm more a
into the
savory.
dough?
You're more of a sweet, and I'm more of a savory kind of guy. So there is that other divide between the two of us. In any case, let's take some calls. Pat, you're in Chestnut Hill. You're first or something on Boston Public Radio. Hi there. Hi.
Oh, hi, long time listener. Fourth time getting through.
Oh my God. Hello.
Amazing. I want to tell you, Jimmy, turn off the radio.
Turn off the radio.
Turn off the radio.
Okay,
turn
go
off
ahead.
the radio,
Okay,
Jim.
okay.
So a great gluten-free, teeny little place in Wobbin. It's called White Lion.
Oh.
It's wonderful. Wonderful. Their commissary is down in Mashpee. And but they have a little corner store in Wobbin, right around the corner from Starbucks.
Can you tell it's gluten-free or it's that good that you can't?
Oh, it's that good that you can't, Jim.
That's fabulous.
It's that good. And they have these fabulous bars that are just sumptuous. And, I get stuff from there all the time. I have some almond cookies with chocolate in them.
She's like you. She likes even saying the words.
They have that great place. We
Pat, thanks for the
had
call.
some of the gluten-free pastry from them before, that Violette in Cambridge.
Is that what it is?
Which is all this, gluten-free. They get the scones, they get the donuts, they get the whole
You did?
thing. They get the syrup-soaked cakes. Yeah.
Syrup soaked.
Yeah, syrup-soaked. They're soaking over
Are you
there.
gluten-free?
No, but I have people in my family who are gluten-free.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, and it's really hard. If you go out to most bakeries, they don't have anything like that. And it's great if you have a place you can go to get really good gluten-free stuff. And I think Flour makes some gluten-free stuff as well.
So let me say something to you, which I found very interesting. I don't know if you know this. Do you know when you're stuffed at the end of a meal, like stuffed to the point where you're really ready to explode?
Always room for dessert.
Well, it's funny you say that. There is actually a scientific basis for this. One night, I'm out to dinner with friends. I can't remember who they were. And they said, do you want to order dessert? I said, I can't. I'm really ready to explode, which sadly is how I feel after most meals, which is not the way you should eat. I know that's not good, so don't bother texting me. And they say there is a scientific basis, and I Googled it. I didn't have time to do it today, which says whatever it is that says you're full or satiated, is that the right word?
Satiated,
Satiated. When you're eating regular food, even if that's true, it's not literally like you have another compartment. Look at Zoe's looking at me like I'm nuts. Like you have another physical compartment, but there's another something in you. Can you look this up so I don't feel like a fool? That says that you can do a sweet thing, a sweet pastry, even if you are stuffed from your meal.
I eat chocolate after every meal.
Well, you don't eat that much.
Well, I don't eat that much, but I make sure I have a dessert. You want to have it. It means you're finished eating your dinner, and you have chocolates. Or if you go to a great pastry place, you get another great pastry there, like a cheesecake.
Look at the smile on your face.
Yeah, I love cheesecake.
You're a cheesecake person?
Tiramisu.
Did you ever go to Junior's in Brooklyn?
Yes, you can go there. You can sit by there's any place.
You can do weightlifting with a Junior's cheesecake.
They're very
incredible.
good. Do you like them plain or with strawberries and blueberries on top?
I like it plain.
I like it plain too. I don't want to. You don't want to mess
Did
up.
I tell you who I stood next to at the urinal at Junior's in Brooklyn?
Junior
when
himself?
I was in law school? No.
Oh.
Harry Chapin.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And you're going to say before he's dead. Yes, obviously before he's dead.
Did you say hello to him?
I was too nervous.
Did you sing a few bars?
No, he didn't sing anything,
Oh,
but he
okay.
was peeing, and I was peeing right next to him.
Well,
It was
that was very exciting.
Pretty good.
It was a bonding
Sensory
moment.
specific. How do you say it? Satiety is how you say it. Is what I'm referring to. Sensory
know.
specific.
That means
satiety.
after eating one type of food, our desire for that food decreases, but our desire for a different type
That's
of food,
what
like
it is.
dessert,
Exactly.
can actually increase. Yeah, I some people don't have dessert. I love dessert. I think it's kind
nice.
of you're kind of getting
Do
too
you like
hot.
it syrup soaked? Is that your position?
Syrup soaked. Yes.
Let's go to Lindsay in Plainville. Hi, Lindsay. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon. I love your show.
Thank you
for having me.
You're very nice. Thank you.
My favorite dessert is tiramisu.
Love that.
And they make a great one at Whole Foods.
They do. That's it?
What do they have? A great one at Whole Foods?
Tiramisu.
Oh, tiramisu. They do have a great tiramisu at Whole Foods. And they have that other cake, that creamy cake that people were very upset. Oh, God, I can't think of the name of it. There was a whole story about the New York Times about how they discontinued this cake. It was kind of a lot of whipped cream and white frosting.
Yes. Okay, good.
Yeah, and cherries.
Fine.
You know what I'm talking about,
No,
Lindsay?
no one knows what you're talking
Well, they took it away. I took it away. I'll try to look
Lindsay,
it up.
have you ever had the experience we were describing a minute ago where you're finished the main thing and you're so stuffed you're ready to explode and you still have room for a sweet pastry for dessert? Yes?
Yes, of course, all the time.
Okay, great. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Lindsay, for the call.
It's the berry chantilly
That's what
cake.
Hannah just said, chantilly cake.
Berry chantilly cake from Whole Foods. This person writes about it, said their life was changed when they first tried the cake a couple of years ago, and they briefly and stupidly discontinued it, but now it is back. It's
Those
like
bold words by you.
It's white cake with some kind of very delicious-looking frosting with all this chantilly-colored stuff in the middle. It looks fantastic.
We have to take a break, but very quickly, if you could, someone said you can only have one pastry.
With chantilly cream and fresh berries, Jim.
Oh, that's good.
Airy,
I don't like
sweet.
that berry thing. Do you
And
like
you know
the
what?
like on a tart when you have all those berries? No.
No, they just have a few discrete berries on the side.
I don't like any discrete berries.
No,
Let's take a break.
Then you know what?
I don't want.
You don't have to eat them. You don't have to eat
not
the
gonna eat
discrete
it.
berries on the side.
I'm not gonna. I'm gonna have about 14 pieces of pastry.
All right.
From Sofra
I know,
and
so am I. As soon as the show's over, man, I
Oleana
can't
in a
wait.
minute. Let's not wait.
We're gonna be back just in a second.
We are.
We're talking more about all your favorite pastries. What do you like? What you not like? If it makes life worth living.
It's the happiest Marjorie's been in weeks.
888-897-9424. That's the wrong number. That's the number for the pledge.
Right.
I may as well start pledge. Well, no, it's not starting yet.
The number is 877-301-8970 if you'd like to call the show. And in a second, when Marjorie recovers, she'll tell you how to make a pledge.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support. So please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
Okay, I got to read this one from Otto in Providence. Knock my socks off. I've spent an obscene amount of my life with Marjorie and Jim. Sometimes I find myself answering their rhetorical questions out loud in my car like a complete lunatic. I realized I had a problem when I found myself saying, well, as Jim mentioned this afternoon, to people who have no idea who Jim is or what I'm talking about, do not want to imagine my life without the show. Isn't that
so kind?
Otto, you've made my day. Thank you very much. There's a lot of good ones. Alex in Boston not only says GBH and NPR, but part of my daily routine for the last 30 years. It's important now more than ever to give support to keep fact-based reporting available for everyone. Oh! And here's John from Melrose, a gift in honor of Aidan Conley, and thanks for his
Who's part of our team. He's part of our team.
And commitment to making music of all kinds, an important and ongoing part of Boston Public Radio. And that is true. Aidan gets our live music, is responsible for Live Music Friday every week, and he gets a tremendous variety of people in here.
I'm not going to name names.
From rappers to classical to quartets to jazz.
Marjorie and I were once in a meeting with somebody who said, I love your show. I listen every day. The only suggestion I'd make is you should add music to your show.
Oh, God.
And we said, well, actually, we've had music on our show for the last 7 years.
That's
so.
That's like somebody tells you they really like your show, and you say, really? Which segment did you like?
Exactly.
And, of course, they don't know because they're not telling you the truth.
I know we're getting low. I shouldn't have said any of those things.
888-897-9424 is the number, gbhnews.org. We are very, very grateful to people that listen to us, and we're very, very grateful to people that take the time to support us, particularly now when we're under threat from the federal government. Now's the time because a generous group of Beacon Circle, patrons will kick in an extra $5 a month in support of GBH for each new or increasing sustaining gift made today. That means if you're already given like $10 a month and you increase it, they'll throw in an extra $5 a month.
That is correct.
That is correct. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Go ahead, Jim.
No, we're actually, we still have 35 seconds.
Yep.
Oh, we do. How are you, Marjorie?
I'm fine, Jim.
Good.
How are
Thank you. Okay, do it. The generosity today has been colossal, and it really means a lot to us. And as I say, you don't have to write a note, but if you do write a note, it feels incredibly good. And if you do $10 a month as your sustaining thing, or increase your sustaining thing by $10 a month, it's actually a pretty good gift today. The Stand With The Facts water bottle, 20 ounces, white, stainless steel, insulated. It does say Stand With The Facts, and it does say NPR, and it does say 89.7 GBH logo. Logos probably matter more now than ever because you're making a statement to people, which you care about.
Correct.
At a time when some powerful people don't care about it at all.
Standing up to the man.
888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We only have a couple minutes left. We're talking about pastries because obviously we had two great chefs here, Soetun and Maura Kilpatrick from Sofra and Oleana. We are stuffing ourselves during the breaks. It's absolutely fabulous. We want to know what your relationship is with pastries, particularly particular bakeries and that sort of thing. You want to take a call or you want to read it?
Yeah, I just want to mention a couple of people saying that Levain, Levain Bakery in the Back Bay, I think it's on Newbury Street. Always a line there. Really great, ungodly delicious cookies ever spawned on earth, says one of the textures. $30 for 4 cookies is crazy, but never having ever tried these cookies would be even crazier. Somebody else has some lemon squares from Trader Joe's.
Lemon squares. There's a friend of ours who makes lemon squares that are a
Marianne
little
Leone.
bit better than I've ever had in my life. But by the way, Flour Bakery, when Joanne and Christopher Myers, Joanne Chang, were here right before they opened the Boston Common thing, how about one of those Embrace muffins?
Oh my
that's
God.
modeled after the Embrace statue.
Oh my
It's like
God.
100 feet away from their new place.
Is out of this world. And you know what
Best
else?
baker in America, James Beard. She was voted.
And everything else in there, the
Fabulous.
salads, the sandwiches,
Hot dogs.
the hot dogs. That's right. You can get
We
them
can
Boston
count
Common
that
now.
because there's pastry around them. They have a brioche, roll grilled
and
with
her
butter.
Sugar brioche.
Ah.
You just can't even
Okay, good.
believe it.
Okay, let's go to Hillary
from Cambridge.
Hi, Hillary.
Hi, Hillary.
Hi, how are you? I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you.
Good.
I recommend the Japanese bakery. They're by the St. Mary's Tea Shop. And
We've
they
both
have
been
Azuki
there.
Cream.
Great.
Yes.
Wait, which one do you like?
The Azuki Cream.
Oh.
It's a puff, like I don't know if it's brioche, but it has has whipped cream in the middle, and then underneath Azuki bean, red bean paste.
Yeah, I have gotten that. I have gotten those by the 6-pack, really. They're absolutely fantastic. They're only open, I think, is it Thursday through Sunday?
Yeah, they're not open a lot.
Or Wednesday through Sunday. They're not open Mondays and Tuesdays, but I think it's Thursday through Sunday and it's a mob scene every
It's
time
also
you go.
affordable.
And they have the little ones inside the
Hillary,
cellophane packages,
Yeah.
which are like a cream-filled brioche type experience. Oh my
syrup
God! You kind of can feel your arteries clogging as you eat them, but what the hell?
Yeah, I know.
Susan from the car. Thank you for calling,
Hello,
Susan.
Susan in the car.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Susan. How are you?
I can hardly hear you.
Yeah, we can.
I'm coming from Flake Bakery in Cooley Corner.
We didn't hear the name. What's the name?
Of the Flake.
Flake?
Flake?
Flake.
Blake?
We're having trouble.
Flake, thank you. Flake.
Yeah, we have. It's a bad connection.
Bad connection.
Susan, I'm sorry.
Flake in Coolidge Corner. Hey,
Somebody
can I tell
else
you
is
something?
Clear Flour in Brookline. People are recommending that. The
Can I
bread
break
there is
something
great.
to you?
What?
Show's over.
Oh my God! The
I know.
show's over. We just started. The show's over. Okay.
We didn't just start. We
Well,
started 3 hours ago.
We started talking about pastry, my favorite subject.
I know, it's incredible.
Okay, we are done
That's
for
it.
the day. Thank you very much for tuning
Thank
in.
you all for coming,
very
too.
much
We
to people
appreciate
who
it. Thank
contributed,
you.
and thank you very much to people who added listener comments that really make us feel good to
They
read
do.
those things. Okay, keep up with us 24/7 wherever podcasts, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow we're going to be back in Brighton with podcaster Chuck Todd, former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety Andrea Cabral, legendary environmentalist Bill McKibben, and GBH's James Bennett II. He is from the Culture Show that Jared's on as well. Our crew is Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conlon, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss. Our engineer is John the Claw Parker. Our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. Special thanks to our BPL staff, Patrick Lally, Bill Francis, Juan Jose Cadena. Thanks to our hosts at the Newsfeed Cafe and across the street at the Lenox Hotel. Stay tuned to the Culture Show with Jared Bowen that is right after us in 89.7 at GBH. Jim, thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, well, you're very nice to say that.
Yeah, I made a
and
few
thank
mistakes
you.
today.
Thank you. You
Corrected
made
me. That
but
was
just
good.
a couple. It's not a big deal. That's really not a big
No,
deal.
usually it's under 10. Under
No,
10. So that's
under
an
10.
achievement. I'm Marjorie Egan.
By the way, when it's over 10, our contract is voided, which is really sad. So when you keep it under 10, it's
Try
really
to keep it in
best
the
for all
single
of
digits.
us.
That's right. Okay.
I'm Jim Browdy.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Thanks again for
See
tuning
ya.
in today.
Bye.
Hope you can tune in tomorrow. Have a great afternoon.
Bye.
It's Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener support is the most important and largest source of funding for GBH. Please take a few minutes and give right now. When you do, you'll be one of the many people who helps keep Boston Public Radio on the air. GBHnews.org or 888-897-9424. I'm Zach Finn, and I'm here with Melissa Jones.
And you can join us to finish this hour out strong. Right now, we're looking to receive 12 contributions in the next 7 minutes to keep us on track for the hour and to get this drive off to a great start. Please sign up as a sustaining member or make a one-time gift. The money you give now will help fund the news in the months ahead, and you're going to be looking for it, aren't you? Yes, you are. GBHnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And today, sign up as a new sustaining member, or you can upgrade your monthly gift, and a generous group of our Beacon Circle patrons will kick in an extra $5 per month to GBH. Now, the sustainer add-on is today only, and that makes now a great time to become a new sustaining member or increase your monthly amount. Sustaining members are a vital part to GBH, especially with the uncertain future of public media and in terms of federal funding here. So that's why Beacon Circle is stepping up today. Those Beacon Circle patrons are adding $5 a month to your monthly sustaining membership today. 888-897-9424 or go online, gbhnews.org.
I want to tag on to what Zach just said about encouraging you to become a sustainer. I'm a sustaining member in GBH. I love giving that way because I know that my support is always current. It happens in the same amount that I set it for. I set it for the right amount for my family's budget. And I look forward to knowing that I am doing my part to support my listening throughout the year. And when you give right now, as Zach said, before 7 o'clock tonight, your gift will have that additional $5 added on. What a perfect time to make that sustaining membership right now and make your support easy in GBH. GBHnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And hey, you get the additional $5. And also, when you support GBH, we're going to thank you with our Stand with the Facts water bottle. It's a white stainless steel bottle. It's insulated, features the statement Stand with the Facts along with the NPR and 89.7 GBH logos. So, hey, you listen to NPR, you listen to GBH, and you stand with the facts. So sign up as a sustaining member, $10 a month. You can also give $120 all at once if you prefer. Either way, get that call started now. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Every time you listen to GBH, you hear the difference, the in-depth and unbiased news, the thoughtful and civil conversations, the stories that are told in a way that only GBH tells them. It is truly news that matters. That's why you listen. And if you've never given before, now is the time to invest in GBH. You can do that at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And trusted news sources are more crucial than ever. NPR and GBH stand as beacons of truth and reliability, but to continue providing accurate and unbiased news, we do need your financial support. And right now, we are looking for 9 gifts. We're looking for 9 contributions in the next 5 minutes, and your financial support helps in so many ways. It helps to combat misinformation and keep our communities and our country well informed, and truly what's more important than that. 9 contributions here, 5 minutes to go. Let's make it happen. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
I just want to echo what Zach said a minute ago, that sustaining memberships are so important to GBH because they ensure the consistent revenue stream that helps keep the vital service on the air and gives us a stream of revenue we can rely on. And that has never been more important than it is right now. And it's a great time to start that sustaining membership because of that generous group of Beacon Circle patrons who will add on an extra $5 a month when you do. So don't pass up this opportunity. Take advantage of it before 7 o'clock tonight. The clock is ticking. Don't let it run out on you. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And hey, there's no way around this. There is a concerted effort in Washington to diminish public radio stations such as GBH, including eliminating our federal funding. Now, this loss of federal funding would have a devastating impact because we rely heavily on listener support to run GBH, but we also depend on some public funding to keep this independent news source on the air and free to all. Well, we don't know what's going to happen to public funding, but we do know that we can't wait around idly to see what happens. Now, we're asking you to ensure NPR and GBH stay on the air by starting your sustaining membership. Now, if you already give monthly, please increase your existing gift by maybe just a few dollars or more. Stand with GBH right now. Your contribution has never been more important. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Be a hero right now. Be one of the just six left to go in the next 4 minutes to keep things on track this hour and make sure that we keep GBH News coming to you whenever you turn on 89.7. You can do that right now at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And it's information with a much-needed dose of humor. And that's why you listen to Boston Public Radio. Whether Jim and Marjorie keep you company on your lunch break or maybe you're running some errands, they talk about the issues that matter to you. So support local conversations like this by giving right now. 888-897-9424 or go online, gbhnews.org.
And I like listening to 89.7 on the go while I have my Stand With the Facts water bottle keeping me hydrated. It's a stainless steel bottle. It's insulated, which is going to be important with the hot summer weather coming up here. It features that statement, Stand With the Facts, along with the NPR and 89.7 logos. Show off that you stand with the facts and you support the facts because you have that water bottle. It's just $10 a month. As a sustainer before 7 o'clock tonight. You can get yours now when you give at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
And to stay on track right now, we are looking for 4 more people to give in the next few minutes here. GBH, NPR, they play a huge vital role in delivering trustworthy news that you can rely on. And by giving right now, you help to ensure that quality journalism prevails over misinformation. So very important. Please consider making that contribution right now. We are looking for 4 contributions here. We got a couple of minutes to do it, but we got to get that call started. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. I'm
going to call on all sustaining members right now. If you increase your gift, that group of Beacon Circle patrons will donate an extra $5 to GBH. So whether you're already giving $5 a month, $100 a month, or something in between, make a couple of dollar a month upgrade. They're going to add another $5 in. And so you can take advantage of that right now by giving at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Right, and it is the perfect time to donate. You can get in on that water bottle right now, but get the call started, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org, and thank you.